Magnus Carlsen has started his game
He has.
against Frolic 67.
We
That is
have
Nicholas Rosenthal.
liftoff. We have liftoff. That is all that matters. Ladies and gentlemen, the Pro Chess League Championship has begun. There is no more wait. Anna, I think we did a pretty good job filling in there, coming up with things to talk about.
Yeah, we did a good job, and maybe now we should look at the games.
Yeah, absolutely. So Nicholas Rosenthal, he's been a top GM slayer. For those of you who haven't been following the Pro Chess League closely, he's had as good of a performance rating as just about any board four. He beat Maxime Vachier-Lagrave in St. Louis's match with the Marcel Migraines. And Maxime Vachier-Lagrave, in case you don't know, is about number 5 in the world, right? So I mean, that's a pretty good upset. Obviously, we don't expect him to do the same to Magnus Carlsen, but he's a very talented youngster and sees tactics about as fast as anybody. So this will be an interesting one to watch.
How do you like these kind of openings, the
The
Italian?
the Italian, I think Mr. Nicholas Rosenthal is taking one out of Magnus Carlsen's book, playing a little bit of a flexible opening here. Not playing any really forcing opening e4 games. Nothing too crazy with d4 right away. Just gonna get a flexible position. It's a Spanish. It's either like one of those I guess anti-Berlin Spanishes where White plays d3, or an Italian game. It's a very flexible, very solid approach for White. Let's check in on the next one here. Ben Feingold has also started his game.
Against
Uh,
Tial Kompa, who is Kiatili, and I tried to figure out what Tial Kompa means in Norwegian, but Google Translator failed me. So
you know
if
what?
there's anyone Norwegian in the audience, please tell us what Tial Kompa means. What I could figure out is that Kompal is complex. That's all I know.
Okay. So maybe it's like a combination of his first name and the word and complex. I don't know.
Maybe a very complex guy for sure.
A very complex guy for sure to choose a username like that. But in this game, he is playing Ben Feingold with black. Of course, Grandmaster Lee is he's higher rated on our server, just barely. I don't know who I would consider the favorite here. I think this is a huge game. This is a
Mhm.
huge game. This kind of matchup will tell us early on who's going to take the driver's seat in this match. So let's see. So we have that game started. We also have the game against Grandmaster Jacobian and, of course, FIDE Master Joachim Nielsen. This is also one of those games where we're going to see very quickly, can Norway's underdogs, can their FMs hold up against the boards 2 and 3 of St. Louis, GMs Jacobian and Feingold? This is every game is big, of course, but the angle here I think is really important, especially early, Anna, where we kind of expect Magnus Carlsen to take care of business, I guess, right? And so you want to see what's going to happen on these boards 2 and 3, really.
Mhm. Yeah, it's going to be interesting as you mentioned, since they have two FIDE masters on board 3 and 4, the Gnomes, which means that their board 4 is stronger than Saint Louis's board 4, but weaker than the board 3 of the Archbishop. So yeah, interesting strategy.
Yeah, interesting for sure. Now, the one game that. Oh, wait, it has just started. I was just about to say the one game that hasn't lifted off yet is the game between Sebastian Mihalov and Grandmaster Wesley So, but that is no more. Wesley So blitzing out of the gates. It's become his trademark, right? It doesn't matter who he's playing. He just plays. As long as he knows the move, there's no psychological reasons for him to spend a single second. He just
True.
blitzes things so quickly.
Yeah, and let's remind everybody that Wesley So has been playing basically every week, and he has been scoring basically every game. He has so far scored 33 and a half point out of 37 games. How
Right.
crazy is that? Against grandmasters like Fabiano Caruana, for instance.
No, and the percentage is even better than one we listed in the pregame. If you're just joining us, you missed good and bad. You missed some good pregame analysis by me and Anna. You also had the luxury of missing a little bit of a slow start, so you're 30 minutes behind, but you really haven't missed much. But as we talked about, Anna, Magnus also has 27 out of 32 in the games he's played. So he's played about 5 less total games, scored a similar percentage in those 5 games, but Wesley So has been second to none, as you just said, 33 and a half out of 37 games. It's just mind blowing. All right. Well, he's black here against FIDE master Sebastian Mihalov. I think that we've been given all this cred to board 4 for St. Louis, right? Nicky Rosenthal.
Mhm.
But one of the things that, as you said, may pay off is that this is board 4. FIDE master Sebastian here is the board 4 for the Gnomes, right? So you would think a FIDE master should be favored when it comes time for the boards 4 to take on
Mhm.
each other later on this match. So we have to keep an eye on
Yes.
that and see what happens. But
Yeah,
okay,
also we should see how likely is that these two FIDE masters, now one of them is already an international master, how likely is that they will score against the grandmasters, and how likely is it that Rosenthal will score against grandmasters?
right, right. So it becomes it's a combination of how will they do against each other and how will the upsets go, right?
Mhm.
Um, the let's start analyzing some chess, I guess. Let's slow down and maybe try to give the fans something educational beyond all of our hype
Can
about
we
what
do
this
that,
match.
Danny?
Of course we can. We can do more than just the hype of what this match means. So, what's going on here? Carlsen playing aggressive as black. I don't think it's very often that you see black not only achieve the move d5 so easily in this Italian structure, but then also expand to d4.
Mhm.
Um, I mean, some of the positional risk there would have been if Rosenthal had sort of met that with a move like c4, this bishop on a7 is no longer as active of a piece. But that also comes with some drawbacks because it gives black probably a new target to try to start undermining and opening lines. Maybe a move like b5 would follow. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree that it's not an easy decision to take whether you should close the position or keep the tension in the center. So
Right.
he clearly is hesitating. He pushed a3.
Uh-huh.
I'm not sure about that move.
Yeah, it's a very strange, flexible move there by the young underdog here. I think uh, either he's attempting to move this pawn and was worried about access, like a move like knight to b4
Hmm.
at some point, right? So he's
Could be.
trying to prophylactically guard the knight's entry. Or as you said, a little bit of a high-class waiting move, pointing out that maybe Carlsen doesn't really want to take here because then white maintains the solid pawn group. But Carlsen's okay with that. He immediately played the move knight to d7, um, which probably has a few flexible ideas in mind. Maybe this knight finds its way over to the queen side to help things, and,
Mhm.
and maybe you also have opened up, the f pawn if you need to help solidify some defense over here. So I feel like black is equalized pretty quickly. Shouldn't be a huge shock here that Magnus got a decent opening, um, but no real fireworks yet to speak of.
Yeah, I like what he has done because the Italian is such a solid opening, and he has managed to make it interesting with this d5, d4 push. So now it is really up to who is the better chess player, and I'm afraid that's Magnus Carlsen.
Probably is. Probably. We'll see, right? All right, well, let's take a look at the game that is moving along kind of quickly with a lot of
Mhm.
exchanges. Grandmaster Ben Feingold and Grandmaster Lee. So we had a Queen's Gambit. I think we had a Rogozin. No, we had a Queen C2 Nimzo.
Mhm.
But with the D5 push, we get this structure that is very, very Queen's Gambit decline, not a
Yes.
traditional Nimzo. Um, One of White's advantages in this line, everybody, is that when the exchange happens on c3, White will not be getting the doubled pawns like you see in a Nimzo. But one of the disadvantages that White has had to waste some time in order to avoid that positional issue with the queen. And so Black tries to kind of expose the moves that the queen loses by opening the center early. Giving you just a little bit of context in terms of something that's very common theory. And that's what we have here is just a position that has been reached many times. Evaluation, I think this is just about equal. White maybe has a tiny edge in this position, theoretically, but nothing super special to speak of yet. The big issue is we have to deal with the c5 pawn if we're black, because right now White's threatening to take it. And if
Yeah,
you
and
take
what
on...
White is aiming for is to reach a position where Black's d5 pawn is isolated. So an
Exactly.
endgame would be favoring him after c takes d4, queen takes d4.
Right, or even knight takes d4. But yeah, no,
Yeah,
I
as well.
was anticipating what you were saying. Yeah, made those moves, and I agree with you. I think this is White's goal, is to have a small yet squeezable edge, as they say,
Mhm.
right?
Yes.
A positional weakness, not something huge to write home about
Mhm.
without tons of pieces, but certainly something White can press against for a while. So the question for Mr. Lee is, how do you deal with that? Well, he
He
just
pushed
answered it.
c4.
Interesting.
So he clearly doesn't want to have an isolated pawn. Now after c4, The question is always whether black can support this pawn quickly with b5 and many times also a6,
Mm-hmm.
because now after b3 you have to react.
Right, here comes it. As you said, here comes b3. I think either you have to play b5 or just take on b3, which normally the reason this is a disadvantage, everybody, for black, why you're not usually a super fan of this, is because in a perfect world, yeah, you'd like to think, oh, black has a 3-on-2, but usually this overextended center is easy for white to undermine.
Yeah.
And so now if black does have to take here, this kind of position favors white. This isolated pawn is still under fire. Black has a long-term 2-on-1, but the open lines on the queen side are kind of giving white probably slightly better middle game chances.
Yes,
So
I think that Lee has misplayed the opening slightly. I don't think that
yeah.
this is big trouble, but certainly some imprecision has happened, because after b3, if you push b5, white can continue with a4, and
Mm-hmm.
the same problem. How do you protect all those pawns?
Right, and the main reason Anna said that, everybody, is because if a6 is played, we have a pin. The pawn can capture, and this pawn cannot move without losing the rook. So this pawn chain is not as protectable as it seems because of the lack of a6 as a resource. So it makes me feel like I'm anticipating b3 he will take it, and that looks like what he did. He did take on b3, queen takes. So I think for sure we're headed toward a typical Feingold game. Ben likes these kind of games, a small positional edge, a comfortable squeeze, and he's better positionally to go with this isolated pawn, because this bishop isn't the best piece on the planet when the only center pawn is sort of blocking any mobility it might have. So I like Ben's opening so far.
Yeah, I certainly agree. And also look at the time situation. He's got twice as much time,
Uh-huh.
so good chances for Ben in this game. What about Jacobian?
Yeah, let's go take a look at that, and see how Mr. Jacobian is faring here. Interesting game. I have a hard time guessing the opening of how they got here off the top of my head. But I do remember it was in English. The move 1c4 was played. So let's
Yeah,
let's
yeah,
let's
but I
back up and
also
take a
wouldn't
quick look.
recognize the middle game. It has changed so much since.
Yeah, so we had c4 e5, and a typical English with the e5 approach. This bishop can either go to b4 or c5 in a lot of these positions, everybody. This is very typical. White plays for e3 and d4. And okay, this is all kind of standard. I think white has a small edge in these positions, basically because the structure is symmetrical, but white has more space on move 11, controlling and restricting more squares there. But it's not a ton for black to be worried about, because there aren't really a lot of positional weaknesses or worries to write home about. Now Jacobian on move 13, Anna, takes this interesting approach, retreating the knight from c6 back to b8 and into d7. What do you think? Is that just a sign that he just didn't like the threat of knight to d5 coming?
Yes, he had to prepare for knight d5, and I don't see a better way to do that. Bishop h7 and g5 looks horrible.
Right.
So I think he had to go for this knight b8, knight d7 move. But I don't like his position. So this is not something normal that you have to go back to b8 with the knight.
Yeah, it's not totally, but again, I guess where I would focus on black's, if he was looking for some positive takeaways, is white has more space, white has more activity, but there's yet to be proven some sort of long-term concrete advantage, right? There's not really any strategical weakness in black's setup. He's just passive. Now, maybe he loses the bishop pair. Perhaps this knight chooses to capture on b6 or something. But I don't see any real long-term dynamic issues for black yet. It's just sort of a passive position where he's a little bit worse, which I feel like is right where Jacobian wants to be, a position where he's a little bit worse. That's
Do
how
you
he
think
plays chess
so?
most of the time. I think so.
Why, why so?
I think that's Jacobian. I mean, he plays the French for a living, right? Anybody who plays the French is just used to being in bad positions. Let's be
I
honest.
play the French.
I know, but you get used to it after a while, right?
I know. We like to suffer.
You get used to suffering, and so you convince yourself that a position that's slightly worse is actually just equal.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm poking fun at French players, but well, okay. So bishop e4, that's an interesting move, aggressive. a quick superficial calculation by me says that it works tactically.
Mm-hmm. I also
Um,
couldn't refute it. I was looking for some kind of a tactical motive, but I think bishop e4 is a good move, forcing the trade of the d5 knight. So
there's
the
some
more
strange
exchanges,
stuff
the
going
better
on
for
here.
black. Sorry?
There's some strange stuff though, right? There are opportunities for g5 for white and queen
Mm-hmm.
f4 in some positions. I'm looking at let's just make some moves since we have the luxury. Whenever you see the board go gray, everybody, that means we're in analysis mode. So if you're wondering how and why that happens, that means if you ever see the board with this shade of color, it means that Anna and I are analyzing a position that was not actually played in the game. Not yet, anyway. Just a quick pro tip for those maybe viewing Chess.com broadcast for the first time. After knight takes in g5, is this position becoming a mess? It's a strange set. I mean, I look at like bishop takes f3, bishop takes, pawn takes g5, bishop takes. White has the bishop pair, and black is under a little bit of a bind. But maybe I'm underestimating that after bishop f3, black would have knight h7, Anna, taking advantage of a pinned pawn on g5 because of the
Yeah.
bishop here.
Yeah, this is complex. Maybe
Yeah.
G5 is too aggressive. I see that the guys in the chat are very excited about Wesley's position, and some of you guys are suggesting that he is lost. I don't
Whoa.
think he's lost, but maybe we should have a look at it if it's not clear who is better.
I have just turned there now, and I'm interested to see that. First of all, I don't agree that he's lost at all. I mean,
Yeah,
if
I love
he's
his position actually.
yeah, I mean he's got a positional advantage in the endgame where White has some weak pawns. Yes, he does have the bishop pair, meaning FIDE Master Sebastian Mihalov, and he does have an active looking rook, but the long term, see, when you're calculating or evaluating a position, you have to look at both the activity of the pieces, but also the targets and who actually has something concrete to play for. White has one isolated pawn, three isolated pawns, four isolated pawns. Black has no isolated pawns. Perhaps the weakest potential pawn is the a5 pawn, but it's very difficult to see White winning this endgame. If anything, I think Black is the only one with chances to win. So sorry to burst the bubble there. Would you agree, Anna?
I definitely agree. I love when I have healthy pawn structure and my opponent has these horrible pawns. But I think maybe some of you guys were worried about Wesley's position because White's rook is very active and also the bishops. But as Danny mentioned, that is something that either you can use it right now, some dynamic factors, or on the long run, Black's position is much better because of the pawn structure. So his only problem is the passive rook. So once he can
Right.
exchange rooks, or activate his rook, he should be fine.
Yep. It'll be interesting to see. I mean, yeah, it is a little bit tricky to activate this rook when you're worried about what that other rook might be up to, but I have a hard time believing there won't be a way to balance defense there and maybe create some open weaknesses here. In fact, maybe even look for Wesley to consider some way to try to let White trade off one of these weaknesses, but maybe open up the king side a little bit to create some other avenues for the rook. I don't know, just throwing it out there as a okay. I like this move as well. I think that trading off the bishops
Yeah,
highlights the knight advantage over the light square bishop even more because it gives this
true.
knight access to squares it didn't have access to. The bishop on the light squares may end up becoming one of those innocent bystanders where he's sort of a purposeless piece to prevent the knight from maneuvering around on the dark squares. So that's a oops.
Exactly.
Yep.
Then the f4 square for the knight, that's a beautiful outpost. So I like that Sebastian went bishop e1, trying to keep the bishop, but it also means that now his bishop is very passive on e1 and the f4 bishop is fine. I don't know what's happening in the chat, but you guys like to say that somebody's losing. Now I see Magnus Carlsen losing. I'm not sure that is true, but we have to check
I
it,
think
Danny.
they just like that you're paying attention to them. They like that you're
Yeah, maybe.
following what they're saying in chat, and so if they have to say something to get your attention, maybe that's what they're doing. So now they're claiming Magnus Carlsen has lost. Also,
Yes.
not really something I agree with. This is a little bit more tricky. This is a dynamic affair where okay, Rosenthal has landed himself a light square bishop that the world champion lacks. However, the d3 pawn is weak. I'm considering moves like knight to c5, which have a double attack on both d3 and b3.
Mhm.
Surely Magnus will be calculating here, but the biggest issue for Nikki, really, if you're evaluating the practical factors, which you always have to do, everybody, is the time, right? Magnus has about a 5-minute time advantage, which
Yes.
will be significant if it stays that way and things keep ticking away.
Yeah, I like knight c5. I think that's a great idea. And after bishop takes c6, you can simply attack this bishop and threaten knight b3. So
Yeah, I like this move,
I
knight to
guess that's what
c5.
he's calculating.
Probably trying to calculate more than he even needs to. One of those things where maybe he knows, that knight c5 is the move he wants, but he's got to calculate. Oh
Oh,
wow,
look at that.
he had to calculate. I guess I was just looking at. He had to calculate bishop takes c6 with a tempo on the rook, followed by maybe the bishop was able to get back with tempo, and
Knight
suddenly,
to e4.
yeah, maybe that was the key. And
Mhm.
of course h3 is hanging. It's a little bit complex, but it looks like perhaps Magnus didn't like the risk of that. Decided to play c5, which is just a surprising move because that square was built for a pony, not a pawn.
Exactly.
That's not a fun move to play.
Yeah, I'm a bit surprised, but I also think that he understands the position somewhat better than us. So maybe he's
Maybe.
right.
I mean, he's Magnus, but I don't know. I mean, we'll give him a pass on that, sure.
Oh, look
Um,
at that, knight f6, and he could go knight h7, knight g5, maybe. Okay, I don't think he will get there, but that would be lovely to play knight g5.
right, if he can bring the knight to g5, everybody, what happens is an attack on h3 there. The big issue, though, for Black is he has to figure out what he wants to do as soon as this light square bishop puts itself on e4. So
Yes,
Magnus will be,
it's not
and
getting there.
Rosenthal's going to ask him what he wants to do right now. Probably a trade, and again, followed by execution on the b file. If I had to
Mhm.
guess Magnus's move, I really like rook to b3, and he
Yes,
plays
rook
it. Look at
b3
that.
and rook b8.
We
He
get we
has
get one
just
guess the
played that.
move point.
Mhm.
Which, speaking on guess the move points, of course, we should remind everybody that if you're in Chess.com following the games, not just on Twitch or Chess.com TV, following any of the games, you get to guess the move yourself and try to play like the top players. Of course, after every game, it rewards the top guessers. Sometimes we get super strong grandmasters playing guess the move, and it's actually a lot of fun to see
Mhm.
guys in there trying to guess what their peers are playing. So I really like Carlsen's chances here. The B file is booming, and business is good. So I think Magnus is going to take this one. Let's see what's going on in Feingold's game.
Wow, tripled on the c file, but is that enough?
It's definitely enough to say what we said earlier to be true, which is that after b3, White would be the one who had access over these open files
Mhm.
and to sort of have a better middle game, right, Anna? But
Yeah.
But is it going to be enough long term? Because if one of the things to keep your eye on, everybody, is if the position simplifies out, the more pieces come off the board, two things happen. One, the d5 pawn becomes less and less of a targetable,
Mhm.
offender. You can't really attack it if you don't have pieces to attack it. And
Yeah.
number two, Black's 2-on-1 becomes more and more of a reality. So Black is a little bit worse in these middle games because of this opening we talked about, but if this simplifies out, look for Lee to maybe have a better chance in the endgame than he had in the middle game, right?
Mhm. Yes, I think so. I think that he has managed to somehow protect everything. And after b6, if you force the exchange of rooks on the c file, that is still a slightly worse position, but probably holdable for Black.
But he probably has to take with the bishop first, right? Because if you take with the rook, I think White
Yeah,
will
the
just gobble
a6
the
pawn is
a6 pawn,
hanging.
right? Yeah. So I think after rook takes, we're going to see Mr. Wait. I'm wrong. He took with the rook. What is he?
Because he wants to play rook a8 after bishop takes a6.
Interesting, interesting. And that works. It works because White is unable to defend the bishop and the a3 pawn at the same time.
Yes.
That might have been a miscalculation right there by Ben. I think Ben took c8 quickly, anticipating
Mm-hmm.
that's exactly what would happen, meaning the move I suggested, bishop takes c8. Sometimes someone plays rook takes, and you're like, oh, wait, that was what they were calculating. But, okay, he's going for it.
Yeah, still he went for it. So what does he want to do
Uh,
here?
I think the tables are turning a little bit. I feel like Lee is getting toward an endgame that Black might be pushing a little bit in because he's going to be left with the only passed pawn on the board.
Yeah, I'm a bit worried for Ben here.
Yeah, it
Maybe this
seems
is
like
still
things have
okay,
turned.
but definitely not the correct trend.
Very good defense there. What do we see now? Whoa, the Jacobian game has gotten nutty as well. Jacobian, Nielsen. Black found a way to unwind the pin there, but in the process, he's White has increased the space advantage on the queen side, so b7 is immediately under fire. Of course, there's exchanges we have to be looking at over here. I think in the immediate level, a real quick tactic I have to show everybody for fun is that if Jacobian plays a simple move like rook to b8, if you want to pause this live show, you have about 3 seconds before I show you the tactic. White has this move, rook takes e4 coming, smashing through on the
Beautiful.
diagonal, followed by queen takes f7 and knight g6, Cecalina La Shlamba. It's these kind of double attacks after moves like queen to b3, Anna, that get the fans on the edge of their seat, because even if they don't want to admit it, they're always rooting for a train wreck. So they're hoping somebody plays a move like rook to b8 and allows
Yes,
this
certainly.
train wreck sacrifice.
Yeah, there are multiple ways to actually blunder it. You can also go queen c8 and it still works. So b6 is also bad. Many bad moves here.
Yeah, I think Var has his work cut out for him. What do you think he's going to play? The time is ticking. They're getting closer to equal. What do you think he's going to play?
It's not easy. Even if you spot the threat, what do you do against rook takes e4 and queen takes b7 at the same time? How can you prevent that?
I was hoping you would tell me. I don't know.
No, maybe if you could just protect the f7 pawn, give up the b7 pawn, and then you go rook b8 and rook takes b2, because white's king is also vulnerable. Okay, he went knight takes g3. So he just wants to take all the
going to
minor
follow that with
pieces.
another exchange, right? Yeah, the only way
Yes.
he's doing that is because he now will play bishop takes e5. Indeed. So that pressure that we talked about has been liquidated by Black. But who's getting the better of this at the end? Black has the passed d pawn, but White has this open f file. And now he's really showing that he calculated well. Queen takes b7
Yeah.
would be a poison pawn, everybody, due to rook b8, and suddenly Black's pieces are jumping to life here. So that
I
seems
like
like
Black's position a lot. I think this is really, really nice that he calculated
yeah.
that after the trade of minor pieces. Now
Uh-huh.
White's pawn structure is very weak. Next move can be queen e7, double attack, and also rook e8.
I completely agree with you. I love Black's decision there to simplify the smoke in the center, and suddenly we see that the middle game had really gone awry for White after that very, very technical combination. One of the things Jacobian does very well. I joked about it. People thought I was poking fun at him, but I'm not kidding. He's very good at being in positions with a slightly worse advantage, maybe a slight space disadvantage, and calculating the accurate and technical way out of it.
Yeah.
Jacobian is a very, very solid player, and this kind of simplification from maybe what was maybe a slightly worse position before is something he does very well. He's done it against yours truly more times than I'd like to remember, and played VAR very, very many times when I was actually a real chess player back when I was a real boy.
Sorry,
On the
Danny,
West
but
Coast.
things
So,
are heating up.
okay, what's going
Mike is
on?
informing us that Ben is about to lose a piece. Magnus Carlsen is about to win his game, and also Wesley So is already in the final stage. So where shall we go?
Okay, I just checked on the Ben Feingold game because I think you could argue that Ben Feingold losing this game would be the biggest suggestion of a first huge loss. If Feingold loses as White against one of the fellow GMs, it really makes life difficult for the bishops. Let's take a look at Wesley So's game.
Yeah, and
Wesley
Magnus
So
is about
he's
to
a
win. He has won already. Look at those passed pawns on
look at
e2
that.
and d2.
Well, I just saw the final position of Wesley So winning the point. Everybody, a brilliant recognition that the king is in a mating net, so this knight is not relevant. White is simply checkmated. So Wesley So wins right at the exact same time that Magnus Carlsen wins. Those pawns are nobody's friend. Those pawns are looking for a job promotion, and they just got promoted, and they have taken the point for Magnus Carlsen. So both of the best players in the world, as expected, they strike as they should. So Magnus Carlsen and Wesley So have won, Anna. Now we are focused on the other two games. Ben Feingold is losing a piece, but he's
And
won
that's
some
what Mike
pawns.
was saying, that here this is trouble, but he has, well, knight f8 check, king g8. I was thinking that maybe he has something there, but I don't see anything. So what is this?
Sorry, I'm informing my team. I don't know. I mean, but is he? The question is whether he's getting enough pawns, to compensate for the lost piece.
D5.
He's going to make a mess of it as best he can, and it's not so simple. I mean, note it should be there's weird threats with knight f8 check coming,
Yeah,
and
the knight f8, king g8, and the king walks out with king
no,
f7.
I agree with you. I'm not claiming a mating right away, but I think Ben plays e4 here to defend the pawn, and the point is, yes, okay, we have an extra piece if we're black. Okay, he plays check first, but here comes e4. As soon as the checks are done, I think white plays e4 and then tries to just focus on making things complicated. You'd think with a computer playing black with best play, probably this is a win for black. Although, why is he repeating? Maybe to just gain time on the clock.
Yeah, look at that. Black was about to repeat moves. He went back to h7 with the king and then decided that rook d7 was much better instead of knight f8.
Yeah, I like that. You know, Ben is up a lot of time, and one thing that Ben is really good at is practical decision making, putting pressure on somebody, and he's trying to make it hard for black to get that king out of a mating net, even though he's down a piece.
Yeah, so he will have 2 pawns for the piece. And also this knight on e6 and the rook is so active. I wouldn't be surprised if he had at least a draw here. After knight f5, for instance. Or knight h5. Yeah, that's better. Knight f6.
Yeah, I like what Ben is doing, and I don't know if he finds a way to convert or not, but looking at 12 seconds for his opponent.
Yeah, he can win back the knight right now with rook d8, but the b pawn is very advanced, so he should probably go for the draw. And he doesn't go for it.
The mating net is coming.
There's e6 and rook f7. That's the mating net.
Yeah.
Okay, knight e7.
The main thing now is that he might mate even if he's. Even if he's
after d6, knight c6.
Losing on the board. I mean, play f4, and at this point he has a draw. He has a draw at least because he has knight h7 check, and no matter where the king goes, he can just rinse and repeat. So Ben has already established that he's got at least a draw here. He's going to play tickle and try to put his opponent in an awkward position, but maybe now at some point here he settles on the perpetual. Worried about no, he doesn't want to. He's not settling on the perpetual.
No, he's in a fighter mode. He doesn't want to draw at all.
But he may regret that decision because honestly, having gotten as much practical chances as you can ask for being down a piece, if he gets away from having that guaranteed draw, because now this king can run out.
Yes.
His time advantage is also slipping away. Quickly, I know we're focused on this excitement here. I just want to confirm that what I'm hearing is true. Yeah, it looks like Jacobian is squeezing the FIDE master Joachim Nielsen because these 2 pawns look to be a huge advantage. Plus, he's up more than a minute on the clock. So I expect Jacobian to win this. Oh, wait.
Oh, rook takes d4.
What? That is a huge combination that Jacobian may have missed.
It works.
If queen takes f7, and then queen takes e6, black lacks any way to take advantage of the king because the queen guards this pawn. That might have been a huge. So where was the blunder then? By
rook d8, he had to push the pawn, but then the c4 pawn was hanging, so this wasn't as easy as it seems.
It wasn't as easy as it seems, and if rook to d8, if this proves a turnaround of this position, then that will be a huge turn of events for Norway, especially because it looks like they were already on pace to take advantage of the match if Lee can get a win here, but maybe not. Maybe Feingold finally settles on the draw. Indeed, he did. Just as we say that. Let's give some shout outs to our top guessers playing Guess the Move. Marshall 10822. That must be a zip code. Got 10 out of 21. FIDE master Johan Nesh gets 8 out of 12. A whole bunch of people guessing. Geppetto, I see you there, homie. Number 10 with 5 out of 14. So lots of people jumping in on Guess the Move action in this Feingold game. And now we're focused on Jacobian's game with Nielsen.
Yeah, so it's a draw already in Ben's game. He finally went for the perpetual check. And that leaves us with Jacobian's game, which which we thought that was an advantage for Jacobian until rook takes d4, a huge blunder.
Yes, suddenly things are not so clear here. I still think that with White's king being as open as it is, it's hard to imagine Black losing this game. A combination of the outside b pawn and maybe some sort of tricks against the king. No, he invites the rook ending. What does he see about this rook ending that he likes? I guess he feels he could hold on to the b pawn and be comfortable. So, but
Yeah, perhaps that's what he wants. Hmm.
slightly strange decision here. I feel like maybe Nielsen should have traded queens when he had the chance. I see that just from a practical perspective,
Hmm.
with 7 seconds, balancing a passed pawn and an open
Oh,
king,
yeah, now
exactly.
this is going to be too late.
It's going to
The
be
pawn
way
is
too
already on
late. Here
b2.
comes the win. He just gets a queen here. It's over. I think that was a terrible decision to not get the queens off the board when he could have.
And he doesn't even have a
Um,
second check, so that's it. Over.
that's it, and that means that we
Whoa.
see the bishops grab the lead after the first round, just like that. Things are now clear. Jacobian wins. Um, the bishops jump out to a 2.5 to 1.5 lead, and we have a match here. Amazing stuff. Anna, your thoughts?
I don't know where to begin. All these games that we were following on board 2 and 3. I mean, of course, we expected Wesley So and Magnus Carlsen to win easily their first game, but in the other 2 games, it could have been anything. Oof.
Yeah, absolutely. The so Carlsen and So take care of business, but those games in the middle, as we said, would be the critical games this round. They proved to be. It seemed like Nielsen started out well, lost his footing somewhere. Jacobian did what I kind of predicted he does best: weasel his way out of a worse position, and then
Yeah.
the Feingold Lee game, that was the wildest game. I don't know that either side can really be upset with a draw, and I'm sure both sides thought, oh, maybe they could have won, but in the end, that was a back and forth affair where it made sense that that game would end in a draw.
Yeah, this is exciting stuff, and it has only been 1 round, 3 more rounds to go, and wow, anything can happen. We saw yesterday that even if you start with a point or 2 down, it doesn't mean anything.
Well,
Both the
now,
gnomes, yeah, both the gnomes and the archbishops were trailing behind for most of the matches yesterday.
yep. And now we move into the slay the dragon stage of the match, as I like to call it. Who will have a will anybody prove their ability to maybe get a draw, a single draw, a single
Hmm.
scathing of the armor of Wesley So or Magnus Carlsen could win the match for one of your teams, right? If Feingold or Jacobian, as they take on the world champion, can do anything to pull out a score there, that's going to be huge. And let's be honest, we don't expect anybody to slow down the wrecking ball of Wesley So. But if somebody did, that would be a huge turn of events for their team. So we have about 4 minutes remaining until the next
Hmm.
match. Just so everyone is aware, don't go anywhere, or maybe now take that break. Go get yourself some Cheetos, or some water.
So in the next round, we will see Ben facing Magnus Carlsen, if I'm correct. And Ben already yesterday said that Magnus is scared of him. What are your thoughts on that, Danny?
Ben likes to
Yes.
say things, and I love that about him. Ben likes to talk, and I know you're thinking that's the pot calling the kettle black. But I love Ben Feingold, love his humor, and the first thing Ben said in chat yesterday after the Archbishop squeaked by the Chess Bras in a triple tiebreaker round, it was well, that match was easy. That was the first thing Ben said in the chat. So. Ben's a trash talker. We love it. It gets people excited. Maybe he's right. Maybe Magnus is afraid of him, but maybe it's not his chess moves. Maybe it's his facial hair. I don't know. Who knows? Who knows why Magnus might be afraid of Ben? But if Ben's right, we'll see if that pays dividends, and Magnus struggles against the American. So what's the other matchups? We have Feingold versus Carlsen. We have Wesley So taking on Grandmaster Lee. Correct? Or
Yes.
no? Yes, that is okay. Oh
Oh
no,
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 in round two, no. Sorry, I was mixing it up with another one. So Wesley So is playing against Joachim Nielsen,
that's right.
Jacobian facing Mikhailov, Feingold, Carlsen we already announced, and Rosenthal versus Lee.
Yeah, exactly. So that'll be what we see here. Of course, the if you're just joining us, everybody, just be aware that um, you've already missed a lot of really really exciting stuff, but you have not missed it all. So don't worry. We have round two getting set to start here in just a moment. As Anna said, we will have So versus Nielsen, Jacobian versus Mihalov, Feingold versus Carlsen, and Rosenthal versus Lee. So this will be it. This is round two. It's getting set to get started. The games have not begun yet, from what I can see.
Yeah, a shout
Almost.
out to Greg Shahadi, of course, the creator, the mastermind behind the Pro Chess League. We all love Greg, and I see one comment from Gepetto. He's saying that Greg Shahadi, whenever he enters a room, the collective IQ nearly doubles.
That's right. That's
I
right.
agree. I 100% agree with that.
Also, the collective deadlift, because Greg Shahadi is a great CrossFit aficionado. For those of you who don't know, Greg Shahadi, as somebody who does CrossFit myself, I look up to Greg. Greg lifts a lot of weight. It's almost dangerous what Greg can do in a gym. So, anyway, no, but seriously, Greg, an awesome job. Everybody involved in the Pro Chess League. I think we should also give credit where credit's due. It's unfortunate that so many teams are not here yet, but there were so many teams that had just phenomenal seasons. I mean, yesterday the Chess Bras literally lost by a single hair on their chin. It was maybe one move, one moment. Many people predicted them to be here in the finals. They did fall to the St. Louis Archbishops. At the Stockholm Snowballs were also very close. So can't wait for next year. I think we'll have probably all the same teams back. Maybe a few mix arounds. Maybe I don't know what changes we're going to make next year, but continue to tweak things as best we can to make it the most entertaining experience possible. So I'm waiting. Oh, no longer need to wait. Here we go. The games have begun. Magnus Carlsen going back to the London. He's played the London several times, although it didn't go well for him against a Mont Hambleton when the Montreal Chess Bras faced the Norway Gnomes. He ended up getting a draw in that game. Right? Wasn't that a London? It was a similar structure, I think.
Yes, I think against Hambleton.
Look at Ben Feingold taking on B1, punishing Magnus for a huge blunder out of the opening. Look at that.
Wow.
That is a
Maybe he
common
should be
trick.
scared.
That is a common trick that Magnus Carlsen just fell for with this move c4. The whole point, everybody, is after bishop takes b1, no matter what, white is about to lose the right to castle, because if the move rook takes had been played, bishop to b4 check, knight to d2 would lose a piece after knight to e4. White is just completely lost. That would mean that the move king e2 is forced. Because of that, Carlsen, of course, anticipates that he's blundered. He takes with the queen, and he will now meet bishop to b4 check, I'm guessing with king to e2 anyway.
Yes, it's on the board, but it's incredible that he fell for this trap.
Seriously, that is like it's one of those traps that, because you see it so rarely, it's not cemented deeply in the pattern recognition of every chess player's brain. People wonder, like, how can world champions like that blunder? Well, sometimes you get an odd, obscure tactic that you haven't seen a million times, and it makes for that practical opportunity that you might forget something and happens. And Ben Feingold has jumped out to a pretty good starting position against the world champion. Maybe Ben was right.
Yeah, he is living up to the expectations. So, wow, now we see Magnus Carlsen's king on d1 and Ben Feingold. Can he pull out a miracle victory with the black pieces against the world champion?
I don't know if a victory would be enough yet, just from getting that small advantage, because
Yeah, I know.
it still has to be played. But Ben playing the right thing here, everybody. As soon as white has lost the right to castle, opening the center is what you want to do. Forget about being
Very
solid and being happy
instructive.
with that. Got to be aggressive, and so Feingold is doing just that, trying to open as many lines as he can to get at this king. This is going to be an exciting one to follow.
Yeah, I see Rice Sudian commentating on this is that Mag is inconsistent. He is overrated too. So, yeah.
Who said that?
Raisudian.
Yeah, Magnus Carlsen definitely overrated. You're on the right path there, buddy. The Okay, so Magnus blunders, but he's gonna find a way to wheedle his way out. I expect King E2. Okay, not yet. I was thinking King E2 and get the rook to D1 and try to castle by hand. Um, but look at that. He just immediately returned the favor. Speaking of opening blunders, is he about to go win this pawn on C? This is a blunder fest between Magnus
Yeah,
Carlsen and Ben Feingold.
they are playing like coffee shop guys.
They were playing. No, go ahead and say it. They're playing like a couple of coffee shop blunderers. Magnus blunders out of the opening, and then Feingold returns the favor, playing a little bit too carelessly here with this, allowing this combination of the skewer on the C file. The whole point, everybody, is that even if this bishop is defended somehow, just making a move, the rook will come, and it's only a matter of time before white wins a pawn with check. And now, honestly, the script might have been flipped faster than we thought. Watch Magnus Carlsen win this game before move 25. I'm going to call it. I mean, seriously, this is nuts, right? Now Magnus is just up a pawn and has a
Yeah.
phenomenal start to the game.
After marching to D1 with his
Where am
king,
I?
I see Mike Klein with some fake news in the chat. He's saying Feingold began selling pre-orders last night of his DVD, How I Made Carlsen's King Walk to D1 and I Still Didn't Win.
That's right. Exactly. We got angry Magnus quickly turns into happy Magnus in a single series of moves there. That was hilarious. How I took advantage of a blunder on move 5 by the world champion and still lost before move 25. And I don't
Oh,
know if
you're
it'll be
so
that
mean.
quick. But no, I mean, I think Ben has a good sense of humor. I'm sure he'll
I
laugh
know.
about that one afterwards. So, okay, well, let's check on some of the other games. That one held our attention. Grandmaster Wesley So is taking on Joachim Nielsen here, and it looks like their game started a little bit later than the others because they're really only on move 2 of a Petrov. So we won't focus on that too much as they play one of the most boring games ever. Okay, Jacobian is taking on Sebastian Mihalov. I don't know. The opening looks like a Benoni. Do you have any experience with Bologna? I mean Benoni?
Nope.
No, the Bologna?
Neither colors. Do you?
No, uh,
Let's
no.
just pretend we are experts. So
I
this pawn
only.
on d5 takes away a lot of space.
That's right. The pawn on d5 takes a lot of space, and black is going to play on the queen side. No, I mean, of course, that is true. I usually only get a Benoni when I've completely screwed up my openings. So that's when I get a Benoni. But the whole point, everybody, here is it's a white has a space advantage on the king side. In an ideal world, you'll see white get things like e4 and f4 and get the pieces behind this big center to try to organize something aggressive here. Also look for the d6 pawn to be a target. For black, black is going to try to use the little bit of a head start on the queen side to try to maybe continue expansion over here with a b pawn. Also look for the rook to come to the e file, and sometimes if black can get some minor pieces off the board in the Benoni, you see open lines and open space start to become available where black can hold his own. So white has space and wants to use it. Black wants to wait for the right time to maybe trade some minor pieces and try to play on the queen side. Did I do a good job of sounding like I knew what I was talking about in the Benoni?
I think it was perfect. I would buy your DVD.
There you go, right? Danny talks about things he knows nothing about, but because of his master's in BS, it flies. Um,
What about the other
Dan-
games? Because Lee versus Rosenthal is a game that we haven't talked about much. It's an English opening. Quite a
Yep,
typical middle game.
I jumped to it right now. Real quick, funny comment to say. Legend Harley says that Danny sleeps with those Magnus fatheads. Not true. I only sleep with the MVL fathead, okay? Not true. Just kidding. So what's going on here? This is a strange one. Not sure what's going on here yet.
Yeah, I think black is comfortable. I like his position, so I think this is roughly equal. And I don't think that Rosenthal is having big problems here.
Right, I guess the question is white going to get play on the C file and maybe ideas like A4 and B5? before black can organize something, perhaps with f4. Or one of the sides decides they don't like the pawn structure as it exists and tries to undermine it with a move like d3. I'm not sure. I kind of like white maybe a little more than you do, because I feel like if the rook comes to c1, I feel like I'm getting a head start faster than you are. But maybe black is going to play f4 right now, and I'm just wrong. I mean, does f4 look like a move Rosenthal can play?
Could be. He can also go for rook d8 and play for e4. So I think this position is pleasant for black.
Okay.
On the other hand, in Magnus Carlsen's game,
Okay.
that looks like Mike is saying that he will not even make it to move 25. So poor Ben.
Well, I think he will. He's gotten to move 23, and he's only down a pawn. But seriously, I have never seen a more wild and quick turn of events where, again, if you're just joining us, the world champion plays the dubious c4 on move 5 in a London, which is a common trick to the symmetrical London. So if you didn't know it, now you know. Bishop takes on b1, a shot in the dark. You know why it's a shot in the dark, Anna? Because as beginning chess players, we all learn you never give up a developed piece for an undeveloped piece, right? You don't give up an active piece for a lonely, undeveloped pony. But in this case, you do, because you get this check, and all of a sudden white loses the right to castle. Unfortunately, though, everybody, Feingold kind of returned the favor by misplaying the position. We were praising him for opening it up, but a little bit more aggressively than maybe he should have. And Magnus sees the opportunity to get a combination where suddenly he's just winning a pawn with check himself, and the tables have been completely turned. Magnus Carlsen is going to go on to win this game against Grandmaster Ben Feingold. So crazy, crazy stuff for sure.
Yeah. And how likely is it that Magnus plays this c4? So you are given the opportunity to have a slightly better position with black against the world champion, and then you give back the favor 3 moves later. Oh.
Okay, wow. King to d3. What's he doing? He's mating him. He has got rook d6 coming with mate.
Yeah.
Owie. That's an owie. That's a big owie. My 5-year-old would say that's an owie. That's an owie. And okay, well, it's unfortunate. We won't pick on Ben anymore. Let's check on the other games. Wesley So taking on Joachim Nielsen. Black doing okay here, maybe. Black has gotten some active pieces, and white has a hanging pawn structure, but somehow I feel like this is all part of Wesley So's diabolical plan. I don't know. I feel like it must be. I don't know. Maybe c4 is coming, and then d5, and white actually uses those hanging pawn weaknesses for good.
Yeah, and he barely spent time, so he definitely knows this position still. I think Wesley will win. He wins almost every time, so it's safe to say that he's going to win this equal position.
You really went out on a limb with that prediction right there, that Wesley So will win. So
it's a fact.
it's a fact there. So, all right. Well, what's going on in Jacobian's game? Jacobian and Nielsen have got the kind of Benoni that black players usually like. One of the things I talked about when I was describing both players' goals was white should be the one getting space on the king side. Here, black has found a way to relocate and start to get some space. This is going to turn into quite the mess. Now white has to worry about the weak e3 pawn, which is currently under fire. But the move f4 had positional reasons, everybody. It sort of put the cramps on f5, which permanently leaves that bishop with something to be desired. This is a nutty position. I liked it. This is complicated stuff here.
Yes, I like white's position. It's not so easy to develop black's pieces. Also, to move away the e8 knight when this d6 pawn will always be hanging after f takes g5. Not pleasant.
I apologize to the fans that we missed Magnus's game finishing. We showed the position up till e5, but then we turned away and made the decision to no longer make fun of Ben. But we shouldn't have, because e5 was just winning on the spot. We should have highlighted the point is you either win a piece, or if you want to pause your video to see why Ben Feingold resigned, it was because there was a dual threat behind e5. It also threatens the move knight to d4 checkmate. That is So I was wrong when I said move 25, but you got to give me credit that it was move like 16 when I predicted that this would be a win in 25 moves for Carlsen. It made it to move 26 before. It's just an amazing. I mean, seriously, that was mind blowing, right? Ben Feingold catches the world champion sleeping, but Carlsen completely turns it around and either mates the 40-year-old GM in the middle of the board, or he wins a piece, and so Ben simply resigned. Fantastic. I apologize to the fans for us not being on that board when Ben resigned. But any final thoughts on this one? That was just, I think, the wildest game we've had so far in the match.
I see Ben in the chat, so I think that's all that matters now.
You see what in the chat?
Ben is in the chat, and he's saying that Magnus plays okay.
Magnus played okay, right? No, Ben, we were just saying that it's not every day you catch the world champion blundering on move 5, and he turns it on against you in such a way. So sorry about that, buddy. You should have let him checkmate you, though. I mean, come on, man, right? Where's your love for the entertainment of the fans, Ben? Play it out to mate, dude. All right. What's going on in this other game? Let's see. We already checked on Wesley So. Okay, let's take a look at this board 4 game. This is kind of heating up.
Yeah, and Ben was also saying, just to mention, that C5 was not working out, so he thinks that was the mistake.
C5 in his game there. We love when Ben jumps in the chat. Yeah, I think, well, from a principled perspective, we understand why Ben would want to play C5. We were just talking about you need to open the center as soon as you can when someone loses the right to castle. But I wonder if even bishop to d6 is. I wonder if the bishop should just come back to e7, avoid any of the shenanigans that happen there. The king isn't going anywhere, and then get castled and support c5. So from my perspective, I wonder if bishop to e7 was already better than bishop d6 anyway. But okay, let's move on to the games that are still live and talk about. I feel like Grandmaster Lee is slowly outplaying the youngster here, Anna. I'm starting to like White's position more with the c-file. With the A pawn being weak. Am I wrong? Maybe I'm wrong. I'm usually wrong. What do you think?
No, I like Black's position as well. Lots of space, and as you said, now he is exchanging rooks on the c5. His only problem is the a6 backward pawn. So once he can do something about that, for instance, if he could push a5 and create a b pass pawn, that would be great.
Bueller, is g7 hanging?
Oh, yes.
What? What's going on? Did Black just blunder with rook to c7?
It's not possible, right? He should have something.
I'm looking.
I'm also looking, and I'm not seeing.
Is Ferris Bueller a movie that you've seen in Europe?
No.
Okay. So as we prepare for the Speed Chess Championship roll together, I'm gonna give you some pop culture, homework, if that's okay. So we got to watch Ferris Bueller's Day Off, okay?
Obligatory preparation, American pop culture.
Awkward 80s references, awkward 80s movies references, John Cusack quotes, and bad accents are like 90% of my game. Okay, so you need to catch up on that stuff. But bishop takes c7 is just winning here. I mean, rook to c7 by the youngster was just a blunder. So
yeah, we are trying to see if he saw something, but it's just a blunder, as you said.
Yeah, I don't, and I think, I mean, not to, I tended to like White's position more than you did, I guess. I felt like Black was a little bit under the gun because I see the B pawn being harder to target than White's already active pressure. But either way, you're certainly right that Black should have been able to do better than just blunder the G7 pawn.
Yeah, no, he was fine. Instead of rook c7, any move that keeps the g7 pawn alive, and this position is okay for Black.
Yep. Well, too bad for Rosenthal. We'll see if he can defend something and hold on, but we don't expect the king to be able to find shelter when he's lost his clothes in such a way. In fact, here comes the mating net. It's on like Donkey Kong. So if indeed Norway goes up 2-0, anticipating Grandmaster Lee to beat Rosenthal, that means all they need is a draw in either of these other two games, Anna, to even the match.
Yeah, they have turned the tables. They were 1 point behind, and now with this victory by Lee, they will suddenly lead. 2 more rounds, of course. This doesn't mean that the Gnomes have won the finals already, but This is serious stuff here.
Honestly, if you and I don't get a tiebreak, I'm gonna feel a little disappointed, right? We didn't get to do the commentary yesterday, and they got more chess than they bargained for. I feel
They
like we should
had
get a tie break.
three tie breaks. So first, the chess bras and the St. Louis Archbishops, they ended up in 8-8 in the rapid games, and then in the Blitz playoffs, they once again played 8-8. How crazy was that?
It was totally crazy.
And
So
also the
what's going on
Gnomes
here
played
in this
8-8.
game with Jacobian?
Yeah,
Mi-
I'm rooting for the tie breaks. I'm rooting for tie breaks.
Mihalov just played this interesting shot with knight to e5, and Jacobian went into a bit of a think tank before deciding he could part with the dark squared bishop. But it's a risky piece, right? Whenever you've created such holes and you lose
Yeah.
the natural protector of that square complex, it's not exactly a Fian Keto, right, Anna? But it's kind of the same thing here. White has a whole bunch of weaknesses to worry about, and this may be tricky for Jacobian all of a sudden.
Yes, and we were pretending that we know something about the Benoni. That only thing I know about the Benoni is that when Black's dark square bishop becomes alive, then that's trouble for White. So you see this bishop on d4, it could end up on e5, threatening mate on h2. That's when suddenly Black is doing fine in the Benoni.
Yeah. Okay, so there's a move that I really want to be able to play here if I'm White, and that's knight e2, Anna, because that forks the queen and bishop. So let's look at that. After queen takes e5, I can eliminate this super dangerous piece. And after the queen has to capture, there's a number of things going on here, including capturing c8, capturing f5. There's a whole lot of action going on the e-file. Something tells me that Jacobian is going to be okay here if he plays knight e2, and that's with my completely superficial calculation of the fork and capture the bishop here. But I think that's what he has to do, because I
Yes,
think if...
I missed that you can take my bishop right now. I was already excited about bishop e5.
No, I think you're right, and that's exactly what we should highlight, because, in addition to providing commentary on what these people are playing, we're trying to see if we can learn something from the games, and this is exactly the kind of thing White should be worried about, but I think Jacobian, if he finds the right move, is still in the driver's seat. And
Yeah.
one of the risks in an attack like this, Anna, where Black has really kind of gone kamikaze on the king side, is what happens if all the pieces disappear, right? Who's the one under the gun?
Oh,
Probably the
certainly
Black
Black.
king, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
so you have to be careful whenever you launch an attack that opens up the pawns around your own king, because if everybody comes off, you may find that the e-file and these open squares are not something you can really do anything about. So will White find this move 92? Oh, look at that! We have new color square highlights. Look at that! I can highlight green and blue and red. I'm so excited.
Then it is covering the analysis mode on Chess.com.
It's when you make a feature request and you don't know that it's live. It's like I feel like a kid in a candy store as our site gets better every week. Our site gets better. All right. Oh, look at that. E6. Jacobian wants more than a piece. He wants the whole thing. So what's he
Oh,
planning on bishop e5? How's he stopping mate? He's got to give up the exchange.
I guess that's what he wants. Wow. So he wants this E pawn so much that he would not mind to give up an exchange for it.
He must. I mean, he likes the e7, the e6 pass pawn, and maybe the potential to open up Black's king. We got a comment there from DP Norman in the chat who says, yeah, this was the round where the Gnomes were supposed to score, and kind of get back into the match, because these are favorable pairings for Norway. But he feels that in the long run, he still likes the St. Louis matchup. So interesting comment there. Good points maybe.
Yeah.
But we'll see how big they can score. Magnus has already won, as everyone knows. This game with Jacobian and Mihalov is very unclear. How is Wesley So faring against Joachim Nielsen?
Well, this is still a slow start for this opening in the Petrov, not as Droish as it was before. You already said that his plan should be to push c4 and start advancing the hanging pawns. So that's what he's doing. c4, next move could be d5. No,
Right.
not d5 yet, because I'm hanging my rook on a1. So after c4,
Go ahead,
yeah,
sorry.
he probably wants to move the rook, but I also don't like the queen on d1. No, he goes for d5 anyway.
That's an exchange sack, and it's going to get funky, and maybe the kind of exchange sack that allows White's pieces to come to life. I think the idea, everybody, is after captures a1, this knight lacks a useful square. You
Hmm.
can't go to e7. You can't go here. You can't go
Yeah.
here, right? So if this pony is headed back to b8, I like moves like knight e5 for Wesley So. Or look at this battery. Does he go bishop e5, and all of a sudden, white is bringing the heat to the king side?
Certainly. So this is the round of the exchange sacrifices, and Nielsen is not taking it. It was too dangerous to capture the rook.
Yeah, smart decision. Instead, he retreats to e7, where the bishop maintains defense over the knight. But I love that approach by So there, recognizing that he can play this, he can advance these two pawns,
Yeah.
and that this rook was really uncapturable, a poisoned red rook.
And so what now if Black doesn't want to take this rook?
So knight e5 and bishop e5 are the two moves that are popping into my head here. Bishop e5 is a more aggressive way to get rid of this bishop and maybe open up tactics against a vulnerable knight, right?
Yeah.
But knight e5 may force you to part with one of the bishops anyway, right? Because it's threatening to take
Hmm.
g6, and maybe you have to give up this bishop here. Um,
Yes.
Somehow I feel like bishop e5 is the better move, though. After knight e5, bishop h7, what's the next follow-up for white?
I'm
So
looking for
that's
tactics. I want
yeah,
this
I don't know,
knight
but I don't
e7.
see any sacks, so it makes me feel like bishop e5. Okay, well, good. That is what Wesley did. I feel like this was the right way to create more dysfunction in Black's setup.
Yeah, probably there's nothing concrete after bishop takes knight takes bishop h7, but that's such a pleasant position. You can play queen f3, for instance,
Hmm.
and just simply asking Black, how does he want to protect everything?
Right. Yeah, no, great point. Queen f3 just attacks f7. Maybe I then bring the other rook to e1 and let my
Mhm.
coordination do the talking, right? Hopefully that leads to good tactics. So it
Queen
looks like
c7.
So it remains in the driver's seat. We'll say that. So the other games that are going to be proving big. Oh no, we missed one. Unfortunately, though, it not surprising because if you remember where we left this game, of course, it was after this unfortunately
Yeah.
terrible blunder by Rosenthal, just blundering away the g7 pawn. So let's just see how Grandmaster Lee took care of business. More pawns fell after this blunder. Queen to d7 allows a nice little combination. Bishop takes b5, and the queen is simply overwhelmed. Cannot guard everything at once. The pawn is pinned, and the hurt was on. So unfortunate. We always like to see the end of the game, but the truth is, you didn't miss much, fans, that we weren't covering this. This game quickly became a matter of technique, as they say in Russia, and Grandmaster Lee went on to win very handily. So there you go.
The game between Jacobian and Mikhailov is still a mess, of course. After the exchange sacrifice, what happened were just a few moves.
Right.
But who is better here? I
I don't
mean,
know. This is a huge game, though, because if we're expecting Wesley So to do what he does best, which is win chess games against Joachim Nielsen, then this game here is going to decide whether Norway has gotten back into a tied match or not. Black has to at least draw this game in order for them to be in the driver's seat
yeah.
and tie up the match.
Yeah, I think the whole idea behind this exchange sacrifice in connection with the e6 pawn was that the c8 bishop cannot develop, and if you can't develop that bishop, then the rook on b8 is also not playing. So
Hmm.
that's a huge problem for Black that he cannot develop his queen side. I would try to push b5 or do something about it because those pieces are dead.
I agree 100%. In fact, I don't even like f4. I feel like f4 was played,
Yeah,
but this pawn isn't going anywhere. I think Black has to find a way to recklessly get the pieces back into the game. And look at Jacobian
yeah,
grinding it
he
out.
just wanted to prevent rook g3, but still this f4 move looks
Yeah,
like it gives up the e4 square and also opens the b1 h7 diagonal for the d3 bishop. I don't like it at all.
agreed totally. And I love this move a5
Yeah,
by Jacobian, recognizing that holding back the counterplay on this side of the board, continuing to remind everybody that this bishop and rook will not get in the game. This has been a very nice game by Var Jacobian, and I'm
yeah,
expecting his exchange sacrifice to prove to prove worthy here. I don't see black getting out of this. This is just so tough.
Yeah, this is the typical Petrosian sacrifice that he
Yep,
sacrifices and then maybe 20 moves later he's winning the game, but it's because it's a positional advantage that he's gaining.
absolutely. The key pawn to get rid of if you were black would be this pawn here, right? If you're black, it's a red pawn. If you're white, it's a green pawn. It's kind of the key pawn holding the whole thing together. So if black can get away with knight to c7 and look for some sort of chances against the d5 pawn, he may still have a chance. But there's so many threats against the open king. It's hard to see black having the time to do that. I mean, here comes g3. Can I play g3 and just take advantage of the pin?
Yeah, you can certainly do that. But I'm sure
Um,
he also has other moves. For sure, knight e4 is also an option, and then
yeah, I want to play knight e4, but every time I do, the queen can take on d5. So
yeah,
I'm
once
trying to
again I
get the knight.
blundered.
Well, no, but you're right though. I think that's a key point because if white can do it, that's what white wants. But black's position is still hanging by a small thread because of that move not being
Mhm.
possible. Interesting stuff. Um, okay, so Wesley So has reached optimal So mode. His pieces are coordinating on the king side. He's about to rush the f4, f5 attack, and with it, I think black's position becomes harder and harder to defend. Okay, he plays c6. That's a risky move because the queen loses defense, but I don't see any concrete tactical way for that to be punished right away. So that means c6 really may be a key point.
Sorry, I'm just checking the chat, and Christian Krillita is saying that Dennis from Arizona, the whole state is a tanning salon. I guess that's the color difference between you and I, because yeah, I see
The
that
whole
I'm
state is
being
a
called the new
tanning
Michael Jackson.
the tanning salon. No, it's not a tanning salon in Arizona because we have to spend most of our time inside so that we don't die. But yeah, I guess you do naturally get a little more sun. We're over 6,000 viewers, so thank you everybody for being here. If you need to be reminded, this is the Pro Chess League Championship. The only thing that's more important than this is nothing. Nothing is more important than this. Whoa, we have Houston. We have a peace sacrifice. The move knight to f. You know what's interesting is so I said c6 didn't have a drawback because I didn't see any sort of powerful discovery, but a simple retreating discovery has
Ooh,
has left black really under the gun to deal with the now loose queen and the threat of the e7 knight. So Joachim decided his only option was to go to Sacktown, but there's no way he can justify this piece sacrifice. This endgame, you know,
yeah, but he had no move. You cannot move the knight, and also you cannot go rook e8 nor rook c7. He was losing the piece after knight f3.
that's amazing, right? Even if the queen moves, there
Beautiful.
was d6, a beautiful recognition, and shows you the difference between me and So. I saw no power discovery and gave up on the idea of moving the knight. He plays the awkward knight f3 retreat, and black can probably resign. I mean, this position is just losing, and there's no way black will get enough to justify this piece sack. I mean, I'm not even calculating moves here, but we don't believe in the power of the c pawn. Maybe bishop c4 here is okay. Okay, he decides to take, and now what? He's going to just go gobble b7, and then if c2, rook c1, and I think he thinks he's just going to go slowly gather that pawn. It's not going anywhere.
Yeah, this is hopeless. Knight f3, what a beautiful move.
Yeah, very, very strong move. Wesley So continuing to play the kind of chess that others can only dream about. Jacobian is putting on the hurt to FIDE Master Sebastian Mihalov. Right now, St. Louis is just proving to be stronger because even if, with these two wins, if Jacobian and So win, you could argue that even in a round where Norway maybe was a little bit favored on the boards,
Mhm.
they couldn't quite
Yeah.
come up with a plus score. And so now they're looking for upsets in the later rounds or or this match is headed a direction where St. Louis will be crowned. So tough. This is a really good example of what happens when you don't develop your pieces. This bishop and rook is. I had a chess coach who would just come. He would walk by all of us playing practice games as kids, and if he saw a game like this where someone wasn't using their pieces, he would just take them off the board and keep walking. He was kind of a jerk, honestly, but he was proving a point that if you weren't going to develop the pieces, then he would just take them from you.
Oh, it's true. Those pieces, the c8 bishop and the b8 rook, are not doing anything. And it's all thanks to this brilliant idea by Jacobian, pushing e6, sacrificing an exchange for the sake of crippling those two pieces on the queen side.
Yep, let's go back up to when that critical moment happened. E6 was played here. The pawn became the strongest piece on the board, really, in many ways. And these pieces would never be able to join the fight. So it took a little while for white to really prove that, but as the pieces get open lines on the king side, this king gets in more and more trouble, and eventually, I mean, I think we're about to see a win here for Jacobian over Mihalov. It just doesn't look like any other result is possible. Okay, and So is also slowly taking care of business, So we are going to have a 2-2 tie with Magnus Carlsen and Grandmaster Lee having already won. Here we see Wesley So wins. Nielsen just resigns. Let's give some shout out, some love to our Guess the Movers. So many guessing the move. Let's see. We had I can't even keep up with it. The chat is going nuts. But we had TJE Chess with 13 out of 16. EVL Bone Z with 18 out of 26. That's pretty good. 18 out of 26 moves. So thanks for playing Guess the Move on Chess.com. Let's see and make sure Jacobian. Yep, right after knight takes d6. Black threw in the towel. They'll let me know soon, Anna, how many seconds we have until the next round starts. But let's bring up the full scoreboard. Maybe I can still talk. 4.5, 3.5. The bishops lead. What have you learned about the match so far, and any insights you want to give the fans here?
I agree with David and Greg. They have just said in the chat that Rosenthal will be crucial in the next round. So Norway has a real chance if Rosenthal doesn't score. So round 3 and 4 are crucial in this sense. That's when Rosenthal is facing the two FIDE masters from Norway. Right. Can he draw or even win against one of them? That could really give St. Louis the edge. But if he doesn't, well, problems for the archbishops.
Yeah, that's a great point, because I think that we've been going off of DP Norman's comments in the chat, who said he made the comment about the Gnomes sort of being favored in that round, so if they couldn't score, it's a bad sign. But the truth is, Norway kind of has a bottom-heavy team this lineup, right? They've got two FMs, so now Rosenthal, he's got to take on two technically stronger opponents, and I picked St. Louis to win the whole thing partly because I believe Rosensalsa is an underrated board forward, and I expect him to score. But if he doesn't, if the two FIDE masters, Nielsen and Mihalov, can take care of business, don't count out Norway yet. Do not do that. That would be a huge mistake. Of course, we're getting closer and closer to the big matchup that will happen at the end of this show. If you're just joining us, good news for you. You haven't missed too much. Because the matchup between Magnus Carlsen and Wesley So is still set to take place. We're getting ready for that, and just checking on all of our standings here. I'm preparing to bring up the board, the round 3 standings, and here we go. So
1 point lead for the archbishops. Still 2 more rounds to go. Anything can happen. We are all rooting for an 8-8, and we want to see a blitz playoff.
Absolutely. Mainly because we're just adrenaline junkies when it comes to the Pro Chess League. I mean, we've been spoiled by some awesome chess with not very much time on the clock. I just like looking at this picture right here because it gets me excited for the big game we're going to see. I mean, the other argument is maybe Magnus beats Wesley So, right? I mean, Magnus is supposed to be the best player in the world, and even though not many have been able to do it, So is human. Last time we checked, right?
Mm.
There isn't
Yeah.
a chip implanted there, and so if Magnus can do what he's supposed to do, and if the bottom boards for Norway can hold off the legendary Rosenthal with his sunglasses there, then Norway is not out of it yet. But currently they trail by a game, and they need to turn things around if they're going to get back in this match. So we wait patiently right now for the next set of games to start.
Yeah, also for Magnus Carlsen, I think this is very personal at the same time. So he loves his team. He is a very good team player. But against Wesley So, I think that counts for him even more because Wesley So won the Tata Steel chess tournament ahead of Magnus Carlsen.
Mm-hmm.
And for the pride of the world champion, I think that's something that hurts. Everybody's saying, oh, Wesley So, oh, Wesley So. Wesley hasn't lost the game since June. He won the Grand Chess Tour. He won gold at the Olympiad. He won the Tata Steel chess tournament. Now he's #2 in the world. He must feel threatened by Wesley.
Yeah, you wonder. I mean, how much personal pride he takes into it, right? We highlight this matchup here. I think Magnus has surprised certainly Chess.com. We've been thrilled with how much he's loved the Pro Chess League, and suddenly he played one time and he caught the bug, and he's played every week since. So clearly he cares about his team winning. But Wesley has been the most consistent elite grandmaster of all of them. So really, I mean, that's going to be the chance for Magnus to show that he's still #1 and put Wesley back in his place, so to speak, or Wesley holds and his team wins, and it builds a potential rivalry that we're all waiting for. Wesley So and Magnus Carlsen. So pretty
Yeah, he
fun.
already has one with Mr. Karyakin, and now he can have with Wesley as well. So yeah, that would be great to see that. Of course, I think we all agree that Magnus Carlsen is the greatest chess player at the moment, but we want to see that he has very close rivals and doesn't sit so comfortably on that throne.
Yeah, I mean, just because it makes for more drama, right? We want to
Mhm.
see that there are players
We
capable of
love drama.
outplaying him. Because the one thing that separates Magnus, I mean, as we wait, we might as well talk about it. The one thing that separates Magnus is even when Wesley wins that tournament, and Magnus Carlsen missed a mate in 3, for those of you who
Mhm.
remember, against
Yeah,
Anishkiri, Magnus still finished second. And that's the thing that has always separated
yeah.
him, is his consistency. But we don't need to talk anymore about the consistency, because right now the games are starting, and the first person on his road to maybe winning another game is Magnus Carlsen. He is now white against Grandmaster Jacobian.
And once again, is the exchange variation of the French. He did that yesterday against Meyer, and he won easily in the blitz portion. But I just thought this is a joke. Magnus Carlsen refuting the French with this line.
Magnus Carlsen refutes things with a lot of things we don't expect, right?
Yeah,
No, but you're right. It's not the most common thing you think of when you think aggressive, concrete approaches that really put the French in a struggle. The exchange is seen as kind of boring. I mean, you look at the structure; it's completely symmetrical, totally equal. But it's the kind of game Magnus likes, right? It's a small edge based on a slight initiative and slightly more active pieces, and he feels like he can outplay anybody from that type of position. So he goes
yeah.
for it once again.
And if he outplayed Meyer, who is a specialist not only in the French but also in endgames, I think that means a lot.
I agree. So we'll see if Magnus can do it again. By the way, I see some comments in the chat. Magnus did have white again a second time. Yes, he just had white against Ben Feingold. Now he has white against Jacobian, but that means he gets black against Wesley So. So that was actually, I believe that the colors were chosen. Greg Shahadi can confirm that in the chat, but I believe the colors were chosen by St. Louis. They wanted to give Wesley So white when he does take on Magnus Carlsen in the last round. So don't be too upset that Magnus gets 2 whites in a row, because that means he gets black against the #2 player in the world pretty soon here. So, okay. Feingold is playing Mihalov here. What's going to happen? We have another symmetrical structure, but this time some sort of kind of exchange Grunfeld or something odd. I don't know. What is it?
Which one?
I'm looking at the Feingold game versus Mihalov. I think that we had a d4 d5, so started out with a symmetrical queen's pawn game. A g6 Slav ensued, and White took the road of symmetrical structure here. White's only real edge here is a small initiative that often leads to these types of pony pops into the center before Black has full development. The reason
Yes.
this tactic the reason this tactic happens, everybody, is if black takes it, the d pawn becomes an issue. And if black doesn't take it, this exchange on c6 can sometimes lead to a backward pawn on the open file, which gives white some goals of where to put this rook and where to attack. So a quick insight into some of the things that happen in this structure.
Yeah, these variations, I was just going to say, that are very popular at the elite level, because all those players who want to go for not only the Slav but also the Grunfeld, and with white many times they try to avoid the Grunfeld, and the anti-Grunfeld leads to the very same position. So we have seen this opening many times. I still find it boring, but it could turn into a slight advantage for white.
This move is interesting by black. This isn't a random shot. The whole point is he's anticipating that white will capture here on c6, creating the weak pawn. But he's done two things here. One, he may try to play e5 if white doesn't do anything to deal with this knight over here, opening up the center, opening up the bishop, maybe bringing this knight back. But also, in a lot of cases, if the knight gets kicked, it can head from h6 to f5, where suddenly the knight and bishop have newfound hope of working together against white's center. So this knight to g4 idea, as awkward as that may seem for those who don't know the opening, is actually a common idea for black here. What do we move on to next? The next game has started between Grandmaster Lee and Wesley So. If anybody besides Magnus Carlsen has a chance against Wesley So, it's got to be this guy right here, right? Norway's number 2 with the white pieces. If he can do something like get a draw, that might be a huge victory for Norway. And then, of course, we have the board 4. Nicholas Rosenthal taking on FIDE master Joachim Nielsen. This will also be a huge game to watch this round.
Yeah, as Mike Klein pointed it out in the chat, the only upset so far has been Ben's draw against Lee. I don't know if that was a big upset because, yes, he's underrated, but only with like 50, 70 rating points. So there hasn't been any real upset so far. Always the higher rated player won the game, but I don't think that will stay like this. In the last 2 rounds, I'm expecting at least some draws from the underrated players.
Right. Yeah, well, we'll see. I think if unfortunately for Norway, if all goes to plan and there are no upsets, I think that trends in the direction of St. Louis, right? Because of their 2 grandmasters on boards 2 and 3 versus Norway's only 1 on board 2, not counting, of course, the super GMs So and Carlsen. So, I think that if Lee can do something against So in this round, and if the FIDE Masters can prove that they're not going to let Rosenthal out of his cage, keep the youngster down, that will be the key for Norway. Let's go back to Magnus's game against Jacobian. We see this exchange French, kind of like a boring variation of the Berlin, too. This is like 2 boring openings had a baby, and their baby is also boring. Big surprise, right? 2 boring openings had a baby, and it didn't change much. So this is just a boring position.
I started to like it for white. I was going to say that I don't find it boring anymore.
Why? Why is this not boring? There's nothing going on here. There's
beautiful knight on e5, and you have just managed to push f4. So black is struggling to finish development. You cannot push the b pawn. The c6 pawn is always hanging, and you don't want to take on e5. So how do you develop the c8 bishop?
Well, my idea was I could play knight e8 and f6, but maybe I'm realizing that you're right, because knight e8 and f6 may be too slow if it opens up tactics on the g6 square.
Yeah, perhaps he should move away the d7 knight, and then, but yeah, even then, where do you place the bishop on e6? It's too passive, and he will have to do something against this e5 knight.
You're right. I'm wrong. Big surprise. Yeah, it's not as boring. It's boring from the perspective that it was the strategical, symmetry, right? And we didn't see a lot of crazy tactics. But as we said, this is kind of like what Magnus wants, right? To prove that when the advantages are really small and the most accuracy is required in order to squeeze water out of the stone, Magnus Carlsen does it better than anybody, right?
Exactly, and look at his time. He hasn't used not even a minute for this position, and Jacobian is under 10 minutes.
Yeah, he makes it. Why can't chess be so easy? How does Magnus make everything look so easy? I can play an exchange French and put my knight on e5. Anna, you don't believe me? I can do this. How does he make it look so easy? Seriously.
I don't know, Danny. Maybe it's that you don't want to trade queens and play a boring position.
I love trading queens. I'm not the old attacker I used to be. No, I mean it's amazing though. He just plays a position that is like super simple
Yeah.
and and develops naturally and has an initiative that suddenly looks looks a lot harder to play for black. I feel like Magnus Carlsen has made me a better chess player by making me realize that maybe chess isn't as hard as I've been making it forever. Now, I've yet to
Yeah.
put that
Yeah,
theory
I
to the
love that.
test.
I love that he plays like this, a very human chess that Magnus Carlsen is playing. So it's great to see that, yeah, you can play the exchange French for a win. Peter Doggers is writing in the chat about it that Magnus Carlsen is the other world champion besides Garry Kasparov, who plays the exchange French for a win with the white pieces.
Yeah, and Grandmaster Christian Kurilla also saying that Magnus has tons of experience in this symmetrical position. So things that seem
Mm,
close to equal and maybe
yeah.
little idiosyncrasies that we don't recognize right away, of course, he sees much more quickly. Grandmaster Lee is in a theoretical position here against Grandmaster Wesley So. Now, that doesn't mean I know the theory. I just know that it's theoretical, so don't hold that against me. But okay, it's a position where white probably has a small edge, but nothing really to write home about yet.
I must admit I don't have a clue about this opening, so yeah, no idea.
Maybe next time the players will let us know what openings they're playing ahead of time, so we can take
Yeah,
some
they
time
could have
to.
written us a whole list of openings to
Right, it would
revise.
make us not look as foolish as we look, but no. So we just try to describe what's going on. I mean, you see black with this isolated pawn, everybody, but the difference between this IQP isolated queen pawn and like the game we were talking about where Feingold had an edge against it is that here white doesn't have an open file for one to focus efforts against the pawn, and two, white lacks any real solid coordinated effort. I mean, this pawn
Mhm,
is potentially a renegade any moment here, right? So this
mhm.
is not so simple for white. There's also the c4 square. I think a move like knight c4 would be met by bishop to b4 from Grandmaster Lee. He'd look to castle, and then as soon as he can, try to start coordinating toward the queen side and undermine this pawn. But it's not the most traditional position where you look at this isolated queen pawn and say, oh, that's an obvious weakness. It's not such an obvious weakness.
Yeah,
And
I
here it
agree. And I,
comes.
I see that David is supporting us in the chat. He says that we would just need earpieces and somebody feeding us theory.
Earpieces
Well,
and feeding us theory. That sounds
yeah.
like a good idea, except it'd probably be, I'm already multitasking, technical team management and server support and the show. I think one more thing would. I'd rather just look like an idiot, I think, than actually have one more thing to do. Um, all right. Well, okay. White's going to play knight e4. I assume. Is there any reason why the knight goes to a4 or another? Okay, no. He goes to e4.
No, knight e4, very normal move, and knight d6 could be coming as well if you attack this knight with bishop f5. And I'm once again blundering my rook. Why am I blundering all my rooks today, Danny?
I don't know why you're blundering your rooks today. Maybe we'll talk about it later, but definitely something to think about. The main thing is remember that a successful result for white here is definitely a draw in terms of the match setting. Like someone has to slow down So, who's not named Magnus Carlsen.
Yeah.
Right now, I like Lee's position a little bit. He's a little better, but we'll see if So can find a way to equalize, but not allow all the pieces to be traded. Bishop
Yeah.
f5. I think white will play d3, right?
Yeah, or he can play knight h4 as well if he wants to force the trade, but perhaps d3 is better. So you also prevent the black pushing d3.
I like d3 because we're not worried about double pawns here. Everybody,
Yeah,
white would
certainly
have the
not.
bishop pair, and honestly, these double pawns are kind of strong. They hold some key squares, and it opens the d file for the pawn.
hmm
So that
I
wouldn't be
agree, I
something
agree.
black would want. Okay, so plays knight c4, and we see bishop to b4 immediately as we anticipated. Um, okay, things going well. Uh, let's check on the next game. We've got the board 4 battle. Rosen Salsa versus Nielsen. Um, a
Yeah,
Carol
this
Khan.
is still quite at an early stage. What I was checking now is the bounce position, and I like that knight on c5 a lot. I don't
Yeah,
know if it makes much It's a beautiful outpost, but he has a backward e3 pawn, and yeah, so it has its advantages and disadvantages that he went for this position.
Yeah, it seems like one where white is initially, optically looks very happy.
Yeah,
Solid knight, bad bishop behind. It's the classical bad bishop
mm,
we define as one that's sort of
exactly.
locked in. But then you look at it, e3 is weak, b3 is currently being held back.
Hmm.
Look for tactics on d5. I wonder sometimes if we should be aware of that. What white would really like is to get b4 and b5 and try to undermine and open up some weaknesses here. But black is currently doing his best to prevent b4. Um,
Yes, a5 was an important move, as you mentioned, to prevent b4. And I always want to blunder my rook, so I was going to say rook b5, but then bishop takes d5 works. So don't blunder your rook.
yeah, definitely. Pro tip from International Master Rudolph: don't blunder your rook. Um,
Exactly, exactly. It's very important at chess that you don't blunder rooks in one move.
all right. No, I mean, yep. I hear you. Okay, so let's go check on. Let's go back to Rosenthal's game, the board four, and let's just try to understand what happens here before it gets too messy. I like the way Rosenthal is playing. He's undermined the d5 pawn with the goal that, okay, it's not just about winning the pawn, it's about opening up the diagonal of this very strong bishop. It looks like now black has to make a decision. Do I continue to try to defend that pawn and we're in a staring contest, or do I have to break? Do I have to push or capture? I feel like black is going to have to break here and do something about that pawn.
So how would you do it?
Well, I mean, you can't play bishop e6 because the e5 pawn is hanging, right, from the
Yeah.
rook, I think. So that makes me think, well, how would I do it? Well, I don't like d4. That self-blocks my own bishop, and this bishop feels kind of frisky.
Hmm.
Taking c4 feels like we're headed toward a better endgame for white, where white's 3-on-2 is much more effective than black's doubled 4-on-3. So
I
this
agree.
doesn't feel good either. And so, like I said, I like the position of the young Rosenthal. I'm
Mhm.
refraining from calling him Rosensalsa because I was informed by my team that maybe that's an inside joke that not enough people get. So we'll stop calling him Rosensalsa. Okay,
Well,
he
black
plays.
goes for bishop e6. Sorry to interrupt you, but this was the move that we were saying that it's not possible.
There must be. Is there tactics on f2? Whenever I look at rook takes e5, I'm immediately assuming maybe there's some sort of trick that involves a discovery, but I don't see anything here. I guess his plan on rook takes e5 must be to capture on c4 and just blow the doors open on the position.
Probably, and also the b7 pawn will be hanging in the end. So, well, massive exchanges.
Yeah. So what happens at the end of those massive exchanges? Let's just take, shake and bake. Bishop takes b7. Who's winning and why? I don't. Very, very tricky. The moves are probably about to be played faster than we can calculate them.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly. They are going for this. Rook takes e5, now d takes.
and I think bishop takes c4 should be played before trading anything on d1, of course. And maybe this was the right approach for black, as we were just sort of highlighting the struggle of guarding the d5
Hmm.
pawn or e5. And so even if he ends up being down a pawn, and I'll just throw it out there, like, is a position like this, like, is it the end of the world for black? Maybe not, right? There's some pressure. The bishops are. It's not like white is just instantly winning here. Black is probably going to have some pressure on some critical points in this position.
Yes, he's got good practical chances, so it was a good decision by Nielsen. What about the other games? Because I feel like we will miss something if we stay at this position.
Okay.
Um,
I've
I
jumped back to
see.
Magnus's game
Yeah,
against Jacobian.
Magnus. Hmm.
Everyone loves Magnus. He's not won yet. He's continuing to show that he's good in these really very small advantage positions. What's changed since we were last here, everybody, is black now has an isolated pawn that he didn't have before. But you got to kind of like Jacobian's position, right? He went from being undeveloped and worries on the e-file to at least all of his pieces are out, and the d pawn isn't the easiest pawn to go win. Look at that. Instantly responds to
Yeah,
d4 with the
b4.
move b4.
He's got 11 minutes and Jacobian 3.
What has he calculated to play this so fast? He's calculated that he's going to go get the d4 pawn, black's going to win a2, but he's going to end in the line with knight to f5. Look at this. If the bishop moves to d5, knight takes d4, bishop takes a2, knight f5, and white's pieces are bringing the pressure.
Yes, and the other option is bishop to e8, but that's very passive.
But right, it doesn't feel very happy to put your bishop on e8, but maybe that's what Jacobian will go for.
He went for it, but I just think that white's position is great.
Okay,
Exchange French, which doesn't look like a French anymore.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
this weak d4 pawn should fall. Also, black's pieces are really passive. So I think that Magnus will win this comfortably. How about Wesley? Is he getting an advantage?
White is still not castled, so the position is opening up a little bit, and tactics are coming.
Oh, bishop e6, so these knight jumps are suddenly very dangerous.
Yeah, it makes you wonder how is black dealing with some sort of knight jump into g5 to undermine this piece. Just move the bishop to d5, perhaps.
Yeah, where do you go with the queen if you want to get out of this diagonal?
Yeah, it's strange. I wonder, so the last move by Lee, he played queen to b3, probably thinking the same way we were about, bishop e6 was going to run into some knight g5 moves, but maybe he underestimated a simple move of the bishop to a safe square. The queen doesn't have a lot of good options to get away from discovered attacks here.
No, I don't like the fact that if he goes queen a4, then black could play a6, opening the a file.
Well, we're going to find out, right? So Lee is all in, right? He's pot committed with this idea. He plays knight g5. I think we're going to see So just play bishop d5, and then I have a hard time liking white's position because h6 is coming, the rook is open on the e-file, and I feel like getting castled is going to run into some sort of discovery.
This looks really bad for white. So the knight jump now is a huge threat, and also f5.
And maybe even h6, just a simple kick that knight on g5.
Isn't he just lost? Isn't white lost here?
Well, I don't see like a concrete resigned move, but I'm feeling more and more that queen b3 was premature. I think that in hindsight, Lee would have much preferred just getting castled in this position back on move 15. Get the king out of the center, avoid the craziness of what's about to ensue. I mean, honestly, even if he had just castled Anna and then been able to play a move like pawn d3, get the knight on e4, some protection, kick this knight out, that would have been a way for white to... It feels like white maintains a small edge there.
We underestimated some tactics. Knight d6.
What in the world? Oh my gosh.
Is this working?
Well, he took a lot of time on his clock, so it better be working because he's got 3 minutes to 10 minutes. This is either
brilliant or losing on the spot.
Either brilliant or losing on the spot, likely, right? It's where I like to live my life. on the edge of failure all the time. Okay, so the obvious tactics here, everybody, the idea is white has unleashed the bishop to attack here, and though you're giving up the bishop, if queen takes c4 is played, suddenly there's all kinds of action here on f7, where this rook might be poisoned to some sort of mating net, captures, and who knows, you just move the queen and something nasty happens. The problem I have with Lee's combo is after takes here, what if I come back to d5 after gobbling the bishop?
And then you take the pieces?
And then I start taking the pieces. I have knight g takes f7 if I'm Lee there, Anna. And if bishop takes c4, I get to take the queen, and it's actually okay. But maybe after knight takes f7 again, you just move the queen. And white still has to deal with this bishop on d5.
Exactly.
Yeah, I feel like I want to call the bluff here, and Wesley So is obviously trying to play like us. He plays bishop takes g2, and I'm going to guess that he intends to meet queen takes c4 with the exact move we just said, bishop to d5.
Yeah, so the other option is knight takes e8 here, but I'm not buying this at all. Also, he's got only 3 minutes, Lee.
Agree totally, and I think again, I feel like this is what happens when good positions can go bad quickly with one inaccuracy. White plays the move Queen B3, and you know something went wrong because after Bishop E6 and these several moves, he ends up taking a lot of time on his clock, coming up with this mess of an idea, but doesn't look like it's going to deliver anything concrete. So I feel like White's best chances were before he committed to this idea and just got castled.
Yeah,
Let's
Queen
go. Let's go
B3
see what's
seems to
going
be
on in
bad.
Ben's game. Ooh, Black is getting active in Ben's game. Upset alert. I like Black's position here against Grandmaster Feingold. This is very strange.
So how did this all happen? He dropped the E3 pawn.
I don't know how he. Let's see how he dropped the e-pawn.
Maybe he just couldn't protect it
Well, he
because
committed because he got his knight trapped on c5,
oh
sort
yeah,
of, right?
yeah.
And
It
after
was
rook
very smart to
b5,
play king h8 because this rook b5 is the move I wanted to play, but with the king on g8 it was not
it's
working because the
right.
bishop takes d5, blundering
Very
your rook,
nice, yeah.
c takes d5.
That's right.
So
Remember Anna's tip: don't blunder rooks. Exactly. Yeah. No. The point, everybody, is this rook survives because of the protection. So this move, King H8, was very had a lot of foresight, good prophylactic thinking. That put Feingold in an awkward spot, having to guard the knight and the pawn. He commits to holding the c file, but with it he loses the e pawn. Now we're getting a bunch of moves where it doesn't seem like White should really be able to expect a win in this game anymore, which has got to make Norway feel good if they can work their way back into the match and one of their FMs can pull an upset against GM Feingold.
yeah,
Questions are being
certainly.
asked, of course. What are we doing to monitor the players, and how do we ensure that the Pro Chess League has been so awesome and completely fair? All of the players right now, including Magnus Carlsen, no players are accepted, are exceptions to this rule, are being monitored by webcam. We have an entire team. Guys that work for Chess.com on their staff are actually in Skype calls with every player right now. Some of the players are even being asked to do screen share while doing webcam. And of course, our methods that are based on much more advanced things than just whether you look at somebody, statistics and all kinds of stuff that we can't really talk about. So, we are very confident that whoever wins the Pro Chess League will have done so fairly. And so, thank you for asking. But all the players right now are under webcam review, and that helps a lot. Just like the Speed Chess Championship, having everybody being watched allows us to monitor some things, and then of course we do all kinds of analysis to ensure that things were played fairly. So okay, let's keep going here.
Yeah,
Black
we
is
gotta go back to Magnus Carlsen's game because he has won already,
oh
and
my
Wesley So's
gosh,
position is going crazy. I mean, it was
I
already crazy, but we have to keep on looking at it.
I
So
keep missing his. I keep
I
missing.
know he is too quick.
He's too quick. This game. Wow, how many moves did they play in the last 30 seconds?
Exactly, and he doesn't use his time. He's got 9 minutes on the clock when his opponent resigns.
So this
Magnus, play
combination we
slower.
started, Anna, we got to get there faster. Sorry, go ahead and interrupt me. I'm sorry I missed the end here, but he launched this plan of bringing the knight to f5 anyway. We were talking about this idea, and then so why the position was still a little bit unclear. This is a bishop pair, but he just recognizes he's better in the rook ending because of the more active king.
Yeah.
Really instructive to see. Not all rook endings are drawn. Magnus knows that an active king is a huge advantage, especially when the counterpart just really is struggling to get active. Now he plays a little tickle, wins a pawn outright, and goes on to squeeze the rook ending. Something tells me with best play, Black might have had better drawing chances than Jacobian got.
Mhm.
But okay, I'm not gonna be too picky. Magnus goes on to win, wins the rook ending easily. Now he's about to get a queen. Amazing stuff. Magnus Carlsen, everybody, is currently 3-0 on his way to helping the Gnomes get back in this match.
Yeah, and
Okay.
Wesley So as well. Although the position is still crazy, of course, after this knight d6 move, bishop takes g2, knight takes f7 was played there.
Yeah, this is where we left it, but I think that was all just these are sort of desperate attempts by a desperate man, right? I think
It
Lee,
feels like that.
yeah, I think Lee knew that this combination was bogus. He's doing something to mix it up. But one thing Wesley So doesn't do very often is blunder,
Yeah.
and let's see, best case scenario, White has a rook against two minor pieces, which we would like Wesley So if he just backs up the bishop to d5.
Yeah.
But maybe there's something even better for him there. So I'm saying best case scenario for Grandmaster Lee, he's worse in a two minors versus rook thing, but maybe Wesley is trying to calculate if there's something even better than just the obvious bishop back to d5.
Yeah, this is definitely looking very bad for White. Desperate, and he's got 1 minute left. What about the other two boards? Because it seems that Magnus and Wesley are still winning all their games, and what will actually decide the result is what happens on the other boards.
Yeah, and on that note, we got to go to the game that we said seems to be trending in the direction of an upset. Grandmaster Ben Feingold down a pawn. Black really, really active with the rooks on the third rank. So this is not going well for Grandmaster Feingold right now, for sure.
Not at all. Black is dominating the position, so it's a pawn up and very active pieces. Oh, after c5, then c4.
Yep.
This is looking very bad.
Wait a second. Wait.
Unless he blundered.
Oh my gosh! White just mated.
Oh!
Black just mated himself.
No way.
Oh my gosh! Look at that. The H file.
Jeez,
Absolutely unbelievable. Black was grinding down the game. He grabs the C file thinking it's good technique, but he actually just walked into this combination. Any other move here, he can try to get the king out and he's fine. But Anna, he plays C5 and now he's losing a piece. If king H7, he's going to be mated on the H file.
Me.
Unbelievable. Suddenly, the tables have turned and Ben Feingold is back in the game. That was nuts.
It was a one-move trick, and
it was a one-move trick
for it.
Not only that, it was a one-move trick that Black invited. Right? It's not even something. That's why he missed it, because Black isn't even thinking about that here because he owns the B file.
Yeah, he goes rook c3 to prepare c5.
To prepare c5. Right. But unfortunately walks himself right into this idea. Again, everybody, Black is winning. The FM was on his way to an upset against the GM. If he does something like this, just get the king safe and then go back to your funky town of pushing the pawns. But instead, that is just that could be the match right there. I mean, because in order for Norway to win, they needed upsets. They needed somebody to score against the 2 and 3 boards, the GMs, Feingold, and Jacobian. But now,
exactly.
No, I think that is a huge turnaround. Feingold is going to go on to win this. He doesn't even want the rook with the knight, apparently. That's kind of surprising. I would have just gobbled up the rook. Maybe I'm just a little bit more greedy. But why did he not just take the rook with the knight?
I don't know.
Yeah, I think that was easily winning.
I don't know. Takes, and then his rook was hanging on d7.
Okay, well, he's trying to have... Oh, his rook is hanging on d7. Duh, that's why. So I was being an idiot. Don't hang rooks. I forgot Anna's #1 tip.
Yeah, Danny, you should pay attention to our only rule.
That's right. So Ben doesn't fall for that. But seriously, a heartbreaking game right now. I mean, look at the time too, Anna. Ben is down. Ben was in a lost position with less than 30 seconds on the clock, and his opponent handed him the gift of the Pro Chess League Championship. And if Feingold goes on to win this game, that may be it. I mean, the bishops may have gotten that much closer to locking up the title.
Well,
Unbelievable.
This is crazy stuff. I still can't believe this blunder by Mikhailov.
Okay, so let's check on board 4 then. I mean, it's not over really, but I just can't believe that blunder. That was a chance for Norway to take the driver's seat. Now, Nielsen seems to be outplaying Rosenthal, so that is good news for the Norway fans. Black has the bishop pair. I think an aggressive... Okay, that blunders a piece after b5. How was that a good idea?
What happened? Sorry, I missed that part.
Rosenthal just played bishop takes a4, and after b5, I think he thought he had rook to c2.
I mean, in the wrong position, so I didn't see that.
But
Give
maybe
me a
he does
moment,
have rook
because
c2. Look at this amazing combo. If rook c2, bishop takes b4, he has rook takes c4. Intermezzo saving the day. So is that what Rosenthal... Yeah, he played rook c2. I think Nielsen felt the same way, that this must be losing for White with so many pieces tied up, but actually maybe White is swindling his way out of a bad position here.
It could be, but it's such a weird position. I was looking at this bishop on a4. It is not only attacked, it's also trapped. On Mike is informing us that Wesley So has won on time already. His
Uh-huh.
position was winning, and he
Yeah.
eventually won on time.
No surprise there. As we said, Grandmaster Lee was on his way, unfortunately, to trying to justify this bogus combination. Disappointing for the Gnomes. This game, not necessarily a huge surprise, So wins, but obviously checking on the game with Ben Feingold. It's not over, I guess, especially given that Feingold only has 10 seconds, but certainly Mihalov was in a much better case than he's in now. And I do expect Ben to win this game. So that means in order for Norway to even stay in the match, Nielsen needs to win
Yeah.
here, but he's not going to. In fact, now he may lose.
Crazy stuff happening now in the Pro Chess League, and every week basically we have seen such upsets and blunders. That's what makes it so exciting.
Yep. No, seriously, this was a huge turnaround here. This game was also at least blacks to at least get a draw. I mean, black was in the driver's seat here, but Rosenthal, very resourceful. He came up with this very tricky idea to save the day based on rook takes c4. That I think that's what Nielsen probably missed, and wow, and it looks like, in fact, on that note, Feingold has won.
Has
Really,
resigned. Oh, what?
yeah,
No, sorry, I'm not. Yeah, I'm confusing things because he was lost and then he won. Yeah,
yeah. No, he wins.
I still can't believe it, but he won.
Absolutely ridiculous, as Ben himself says in the chat. He just absolutely ridiculous. Ben was lost about 20 moves ago when, with no time on the clock, the tables turned with one massive blunder, unfortunately putting the Gnomes really up against the wall headed into the last round. They may have to pull a sweep. We'll see. They're down. No, they'll be down 3 points if Rosenthal can win this game here, which now he's on his way to doing so. So this is a really big moment here. If Joachim Nielsen draws, then they're still only down 2 points, and that's a much easier deficit.
Then three. That just feels like impossible. Although we have seen that previously when the Gnomes only needed, I think, a point in one round, in the last round against the Delhi Dynamite, and they could not. They almost did not do it because they were worse in every position in every game. So it can happen, but that would be really, really tough to get back from a 3-point deficit.
Well, it looks like they're headed that way. A 3-point deficit would require the sweep by Norway in the last round, and it looks like that's where they're headed. Really, really huge turn of events in this round. The upsets were there; they had them in hand, especially as far as Nielsen's game. He was much better in Mihalov's game, but St. Louis, they proved why they are they're experienced in this online team format. They did not lose their cool, found some resourceful tricks, and I expect Rosenthal to win this game. And with it, basically put Norway against the wall, down 3 points headed into the last round.
Guys, if you are on Twitter, please use the hashtag #ProChess. I've just seen that Anton Squared Me already has a cute GIF for the finals. I'm not sure that it's the correct one though. It's a gnome beating up an archbishop, sort of, and maybe it's the other way around.
Yeah. Everybody loves Anton's Photoshop work. At least sometimes I do. But no, it's definitely fun. He's a fun follow on Twitter. But seriously, Anna, that may have been the match right there. And I know we both had St. Louis as being favored, but the truth is you never know. And in that situation, I think if a couple of these results go a different way, you're looking at something totally different heading in the last round. Now it will take a miracle comeback by the Gnomes. They're down 3 points with 1 round to play. They got to sweep, right? Or get 3.5,
Do you
I
think
guess.
that's possible? I mean,
3.5 is what
Mathematically,
they
everything
need.
is possible, but I feel like psychologically they are already uh, pretty much down. Of course, they will try to do their best, but they are
Yep.
missing two of their best players, Hammer and Tari.
Hmm.
Um, it's a very tough situation, 3 points behind and not having those two grandmasters. So basically, the Gnomes usually played with their Olympic team, Carlsen, Hammer, and Tari. And now
Right.
this is the B team, I would say.
Right. Unfortunate that they weren't able to field their A team in
Yeah.
this championship, but scheduling difficulties. I think next year, given how much everyone has just shown to care so much about this, they will probably maybe go out of their way to make sure that doesn't happen and that everybody's available should they make the finals.
Hmm.
But not taking anything away from St. Louis, they have fielded their A team. Pretty much the lineup they used whenever they could is the lineup you're
Mhm.
looking at with So, Jacobian, Feingold, and Rosenthal, and they are proving why they are the favorites. We are going to start the next round here within about 5 minutes, everybody. So don't go anywhere. Of course, the big matchup that will start first and foremost is the one between Magnus Carlsen and Wesley So. Carlsen will be up against it with the black pieces against the number 2 player in the world. Not going to be easy, but he has to do something. He certainly can't lose. If he loses, it's over. But
True.
if he wins and gives his team a fighting chance, who knows what happens on the other boards? Stranger things have happened. But right now the Gnomes are up against it, Anna, and we could be headed toward a crowning of the St. Louis Archbishops as the champion.
I'm still rooting for the 8-8, so go Gnomes! Please. I'd like to see the Blitz playoff.
Yeah, I agree. Of course, we all want the Blitz playoff, but I don't know. I don't know if it's destined to be in the cards this time around. Of course, we are now ready for the round 4 pairings. As you can see, we will have Grandmaster Wesley So playing white. Jacobian going against Grandmaster Lee, Feingold against Nielsen, and Rosenthal against Mihalov. Starting soon, don't go anywhere. The Pro Chess League Championship is not over yet. The biggest matchup, at least on paper, as far as the players go, is So versus Carlsen, and you haven't missed that. It's about to start. And Anna and I will have the call, see what these two players have in store for us here. Hopefully not a boring draw. Nobody looking for some sort of concession that this match is over. Anything can happen in a team event, and I think Magnus will be all out for blood in this game, despite having black.
I agree that he will go all in for his team. So he has to do it, and if he wins, as you said, the Gnomes could still somehow turn this event, which is not looking very good for them, 3 points behind. This is the last round. They need to score tons of points. So, yeah,
Well,
I'm very bad at math.
how do they
I was
how
looking
do
at the
they do it?
score.
How do they do it? I mean, let's say Carlsen beats So. Let's just say because it's
Yeah,
possible.
let's say that. Let's say that Lee manages to beat Jacobian.
Right. So then, which one of these FMs is more likely to win? Definitely Sebastian Mihalov. He should be favored against Rosenthal.
Mhm.
But I expect Feingold to do well against Nielsen. But we'll see. I think that Feingold got away with one in the last game, as he would admit.
Yeah.
But now he's favored once again. A fresh game, new start. Nothing else matters. So Norway's got to be all in. Maybe the psychological approach from St. Louis, Anna, is to know that their opponents have to be all in, be solid, right?
Mhm.
Take a calculated approach, right? Maybe not something that's too dynamic, and let them have to push a position that maybe should be equal into something crazy and see if they get themselves in trouble. That's one of the big advantages of having a lead like this.
Yeah, I think that would be a great strategy, and probably that's what we will see, that they go solid. Wesley is usually very solid against Magnus, so that would not be a surprise, but perhaps that's what they will do on the other boards as well. And as for the Norwegians, they have to go all in. It doesn't matter if they lose with a big difference this finals or just a point. They have to try to at least equalize the score. They have to aim for the 8-8.
Absolutely. Well, the games will be starting and count them just a few seconds. So if you're just joining us, go get your friends. You are about to see Wesley So versus Magnus Carlsen. This is the Pro Chess League Finals. This is the last round right now. This is for the championship. Everything is on the line. And we are starting Magnus Carlsen versus Wesley So in 3, 2, 1. Liftoff. Here we go. So this is our big matchup. Wesley So takes a few seconds to consider his approach against the world champion. D4, no surprise. This game will be starting, and then a few minutes here we'll have all the other games started, of course, but we're going to give this one our full attention because it's what everyone pays money for. Right here.
Yeah, the number 1 and the number 2 in the world against each other right now in the Pro Chess League. The last time they faced each other was the Tata Steel Chess Tournament in January, and Wesley was playing with the white pieces. It ended up in a draw, but it doesn't mean that today it will not be an eventful game. Magnus Carlsen has to go for something crazy.
Starts out with a Nimzo. Now, what's funny is I wonder what kind of preparation they're thinking is in this game. If they have something that they like to play in these openings based on the time control. If Wesley So is thinking about what he likes to play in this opening when he knows a draw is a good result as white, or are they just going on really well prepared theory, anything they know that they can do to surprise their opponent, right? Because the thing about people don't understand about players at that level is the preparation it's not just based on what they've analyzed with the engines and know is their best approach. A lot of it, they have many different approaches, and they kind of choose the line they like based on the circumstances, right?
Exactly.
Based
So
on the
that's what
result
we
they
are
would like.
seeing. Yeah, that's what Magnus is doing right now, choosing the Bogo Indian with A5.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. He's taking on it's not a super offbeat line, but this A5 line is designed to kind of mix up things very early. It's not the most commonly played approach against a Queen's Indian these days.
Yeah, we've got some info thanks to Mike. So we do have the experts working behind the scenes, and he's saying that every time Wesley had the white pieces against Magnus, it was a draw except for one blitz game. So usually Wesley is very solid against Magnus, not aiming for anything sharp, and accepts the draw. Also, Magnus said that in an interview at the Tata Steel Chess Tournament that this is how Wesley's style is. He believes that when he's facing somebody stronger, and now there's only one player stronger than Wesley,
right.
He would normally accept the draw. That's what Magnus said.
Well, I think it's true, right? It's also, I mean, if you feel confident in your preparation and you can get something that puts the onus on your opponent to push for a win, you play solidly and see what happens, right? If they give you an opportunity, you take it. Otherwise, you're just sort of holding your ground. This is all theory so far, everybody. Black is going to put this bishop on either b7 or a6. Both are possible. And okay, he goes for b7. In many cases, this becomes a difficult one for black to get too much in the center because you want to use this e4 square for the knight, but that's going to lead to another exchange. So this is just a very solid approach by white, and we're going to reach a middle game where I expect black to get castled, probably play something with like d6 and maybe develop the knight. I don't expect him to play bishop takes f3, but maybe he'll do something crazy because he wants to make it as dynamic and awkward as possible. We'll see. Who knows?
Yeah, this is very solid. Not a surprise. The second game has just started between Captain Casanova and Frolic 67. So Mihailo versus Rosenthal. D4 is on the board, and we are waiting for Rosenthal to make his response.
Right. Well, big game right here. I mean, I think for Norway to mount their comeback, this game has to go in the favor of Norway. Mihalov has to win this game as white for sure, and I think Magnus Carlsen honestly has to win as black. As difficult as the task as that is, right? Playing the black pieces against someone not only number 2 in the world, but as we've just been talking about, Wesley So's style. It's just not that indicative of giving Carlsen a lot of winning chances, right? He doesn't. It's not like the Nakamura-Carlsen battle where you know it's going to be random and decisive, often in the Norwegians' favor. But still, it's going to be super solid from white, and he's going to really make Magnus work for something dynamic and weird. So, okay, next games are starting here. We also have the game. Oh, no, not quite yet. Right now we're still waiting for Feingold's game versus FIDE Master Nielsen, and Grandmaster Lee versus Grandmaster Jacobian. Okay,
I'm
this is a
wondering,
nice.
sorry, Danny, I was wondering if Rosenthal is experiencing some kind of an internet connection problem because he is not making moves very
No,
quickly. He has
he's not. I
used,
think he was just thinking. He just played right now.
what, 1.5 minutes for two moves? I mean,
Yeah, I don't know. He was trying. He was trying to decide what he wanted to play. It's
maybe.
an interesting approach from Rosenthal, who I think should be settled with with a draw. I mean, this Dutch extension of the F pawn. This is gonna personally. I really enjoy playing white in these systems. I think that white gets really nice, comfortable middle games as long as you go for something that strikes on the light squares against the Dutch. But a strange approach from me to me for black when probably he didn't need to go for something so weird. But okay, now maybe we get a stonewall. Mihalov decides to play e3 instead of the more typical Dutch approach for white, which is usually something like g3, everybody, because when this bishop comes to this diagonal, that helps white's attempts to strike in the center on the light squares. So, okay, interesting, e3 and b6, not something... this is a weird opening, and I'm liking Rosenthal more and more because black didn't play... because white didn't play the more traditional approach. So, okay, interesting stuff. Back
Yeah,
to the game.
back in Magnus Carlsen's game, Peter Doggers is informing us that Magnus's ninth move, knight e4, was a theoretical novelty. So look at that, how seriously they take the Pro Chess League. Theoretical novelty by Magnus Carlsen.
Uh-huh. And after establishing a4, that's a nice move to hold back expansion on the queen side. It also, maybe he'll try to use the a5 square for a knight. That maybe poke some fun at these light squares here and tries to go after the c-pawn. I think white still has a small edge in these positions. White has a space advantage. Sometimes you look for a shot with d5 if you're white, and the idea, everybody, is that in some cases if black takes it, you can move this knight and try to continue to put pressure on the pin here. But... okay, well, we'll see what happens. The next game has now begun. Let's take a look at Grandmaster Jacobian versus Lee, or let's not, because they haven't moved yet. Grandmaster Feingold versus FIDE Master Nielsen. We have another London system. This time...
By the way, sorry, now that you mentioned that Jacobian is not making a move, I've just recalled that yesterday he was having serious trouble with his internet connection. So I don't know what's going on in St. Louis, but they might lose the match because they cannot connect to the game.
I would doubt that to happen, but hopefully they can handle that. I mean, worst case scenario, just, turn on a hotspot from your phone or something. I have no idea. St. Louis, not the place where you would normally expect them to have those kind of technical difficulties. But okay, let's see. Let's go back to Magnus's game with So. This is the one that most people thinking about. More simplification from Wesley, making it very difficult for Carlsen to create something that has winning chances. I know Magnus is probably frustrated that Wesley is taking this approach, but that's what Wesley does, and it's going to be hard for black to get winning chances here. I mean, we've already seen 3 minor pieces traded off, right?
Yeah, this, I think, will head towards a draw, and that means that the archbishops would only need another draw from the other 3 games.
Exactly. So, going to make it difficult if Carlsen can't do something here, but a tall task, as we said, having black against So and his style. Okay, so the board 4 matchup. This has become a very weird stonewall where I just like black's approach. I mean, bishop e2, bishop f3. I didn't like the approach to go into the Dutch, but I can't be in favor of white's choice of how to play against the Dutch.
It's pretty weird.
Yeah, I don't get it, but okay. That's it. So let's continue to roll on. We have Jacobian getting himself in another Benoni. Apparently he likes these positions as white. But now taking on Grandmaster Lee rather than one of the FIDE masters. We'll see if that changes the way this one goes. Of course, we already saw a very, very nice exchange sack by Jacobian. If you're just joining us, you missed a brilliant win by the Armenian-American Grandmaster earlier in this match. H3 is a typical move, everybody, mainly because White doesn't like black getting rid of this knight. And that kind of increases black's long-term control over these dark squares. So that's why you see h3 in these openings. Okay, so they're moving quickly. The Benoni continues. h3 also a multi-purpose move because it opens up this square for the bishop. Sorry, Anna, what were you saying?
No. Nothing. Go on.
Oh, okay. I was gonna pop back over and check on Carlsen's ability or lack thereof to get winning chances against So. Okay, so this is it's not the most exciting game, but what Magnus has to hope for if he's trying to win his black is that if the tension maintains itself long enough, he gets an endgame where there's opportunities to go wrong in time pressure, and everybody makes those types of mistakes. We could sit here and talk ourselves blue in the face and try to convince you there's some long-term winning chances, like if this knight reaches b3 and b2's weak or something, but the truth is it's a very equal position. No real strategical weaknesses for either side. e4 is an aggressive move. I mean, that was an aggressive approach there by White. So we could see some action start to happen here on the king side.
Yeah, what I like about Wesley is that he's very pragmatic. So, yes, probably he would not mind to make a draw in this game, especially since his team would be winning the Pro Chess League with that draw, probably. But if the position is an advantage for White, then he will play for that advantage.
Well, I think he has a similar psychological point of view to chess that Magnus Carlsen does, which is you take what the position gives you, and you try to bring as little emotional bias into what you want into the position. I think that Wesley So and Magnus Carlsen are very similar in that they have that really, really lethal mindset that is that they have short-term memory. They don't remember their mistakes. They just operate with supreme confidence, and they take very pragmatic approaches to the game. If they're better, they'll push on, even if the tournament says they should take a draw. If they're worse, they'll go for a draw, even if it says they should go for a win, because they do what the position tells them to do. It's a good lesson for everybody. I, for one, am a complete basket case, play way too emotional chess, and I can never practice what I preach. I'm just really good at talking. Let's go to the next game. Okay, so this Stonewall has become just nuts. I mean, black gets everything he wants in this game, Anna. Rosenthal has a knight on e4. White doesn't have the kind of approach you normally get to pry open the light squares with f3 and e4. I just, again, I'm kind of overreacting and to say that not like White is really worse here. These positions are roughly equal, but just not the principled approach you normally take to the Dutch. You punish a movement of the f-pawn just like you would tell kids by prying open those light squares and punishing them for such positional insolence.
Yeah, now he goes h4, preventing g5. Which would have almost dropped the piece for White, so it's good that he's preventing g5.
Right.
But it's still a bit weird. I agree with you.
Yeah, I like Rosenthal's approach, but this is going to be a while before we get anything too dynamic. Let's see what's going on with Feingold and Nielsen. This one seems to be moving along more quickly than the others.
Oh, this is looking very drawish.
Yeah, a lot of pieces coming off the board. Symmetrical. I mean, a smart play by Feingold to let it be drawish because his team is in the driver's seat. Unfortunately, if you're just joining us, although awesome, thanks for being here. We are at record viewership right now. The bishops are in the driver's seat in this match. They're up 3 games, 7.5 to 4.5. The last round was really the round that put them there. It was much closer. Some big turnaround games last round. Now the Gnomes are operating with their backs against the wall. They got to come up with some victories to make a comeback here. If not, we will be crowning our first ever Pro Chess League champions, and that will be the bishops.
And that will mean that your predictions will finally be correct, Danny.
You know what? It's nice to get 1 out of 52 right. I'm not going to lie, it feels good. It feels good. But you take what you can get when you're wrong all the time. All right, so strange Stonewall. Weird stuff happening here. Wow. Is Magnus created some winning chances here? I mean, everybody, if this knight is captured, Magnus will take this knight with check, and then he's going to defend the c-pawn with this move rook to c5.
Oh, I love that.
Where suddenly So has some problems, right? I mean, the minors are gone, so you'd think with a major piece ending there should be decent drawing chances, but this pawn is weak. There's threats
Yeah.
of rook to c2, which honestly could be a nightmare if the f2 pawn comes under fire.
Yes, I
So
think
how?
Wesley must have forgotten about this knight e7 option because he went for this d5 push himself.
Yeah, I think he maybe miscalculated something about this knight coming to e7 because you
It
have to
wa-
like where this is headed for Carlsen. Suddenly he's finding a way to win a pawn, and the pawn
yep.
that he's going to win, will that be enough to win the major piece ending? I don't know, but okay, if Carlsen wins as black, you got to think the Gnomes are not out of it, right? That's a tall
hmm
task to beat Wesley So with black. So if he does that, he goes for exactly the idea that we were just highlighting, Anna, and I like Magnus's chances here a lot.
I like his chances too. I think he's going to beat Wesley so for maybe the first time in a
A
year.
long time. Wesley So makes a habit of winning chess games. That guy, go figure.
Yeah.
He wins a lot of chess games, but I think Magnus Carlsen may have been out for blood here. This move is really hard to stop, everybody. And when that rook gets there, yeah, maybe b2's hanging, but the real problem is the f pawn is under fire. Okay, so very good. Rook to d2 stops it, but you still like Carlsen's chances. He's got
And
all the pressure here.
h6, how cool is that move?
It's cool under pressure. What he wants to do, I think, is to play. Maybe he tries to kick the queen and get the king over here. Okay, wait. Is rook takes d5 an option now that this rook is? No, because of queen e6 check. Okay, but the point, everybody, is this rook is now tied to the f pawn because this rook left it. So, you may look for
Mhm.
tactics where this rook on
Yep.
d2 becomes an overloaded piece for all of its responsibilities and what it has to guard in the position. What's going on here? I don't know, but I'm excited.
I'm really curious what will Magnus play here. If he wants to play for this rook takes d5 move, then he should move the king away.
Maybe
But
king h8, as weird as it seems. Can he do
yeah,
that? Just put the king on
yeah,
h8 and...
could be.
But the problem is rook d5 is still not threatened, I guess, because really after takes with check, the issue is that the queen guards the rook at the end of that line. So it's
Yeah, the
not...
f8 rook will be hanging too, and
Right, it's
it's
not
not.
just a win. Yeah. Well, okay, the So Carlsen match is becoming all we hoped for. So at least we're getting. It's nice when hype works out. I don't think this much hype has worked out since LeBron James went to the NBA. So the truth is, this game here is really proving to be something, because if Carlsen can win as black, then the Gnomes have a fighting chance despite being down 3 games heading into this round. Look at this move. He wants the pawn.
He wants the pawn, so he pushed h6 in order to
To get
create
the
some space
king.
for the king
Yep.
on h7. If checked, then king h7. No more checks. Yeah, this is looking bad for Wesley.
If this pawn falls and So does not manage to get the c7 pawn in exchange for it, everybody, black will go on to win this ending for sure. It's just way too much of a majority for white to contend with. So this is a critical
Exactly.
moment, and it's one of those very, very, very rare times where you see Wesley So down on the clock to anybody, right? He's down on time
True.
here, and that just doesn't happen. But okay,
Yeah.
there's still let's let Wesley think a little bit, and whoa, what's going on here?
What happened? Which board is that?
Mihalov and Rosenthal are heating it up.
Oh,
This is very weird.
what was that?
The bishop is protected, so my first initial thought was, uh-oh, ouchtown. It's actually, so white isn't losing here, but the last few moves we missed started right here, where black went aggressively with e5, only to find white was going to return the favor and sack a piece. Who's better here and why? I ask you because I have no idea, but I'm liking Mihalov's position more than I did before he broke through. I mean, I'll give you an
Yeah.
example. Even if I just take and let you get with check, I
Mm-hmm.
mean, look at this position where I have the bishop pair. I'm up
Yep.
a pawn. And could you say that my king is any worse than yours? I don't think so. I don't think that Rosenthal may have, and he goes for exactly the line I just said. He takes on g3. I think he's
Mm-hmm.
going to put the king on e2, this rook is going to get in the action, and I think Mihailov has chances here.
Wow.
I think he has chances here. This could be an epic comeback in the making if we're looking at Carlsen coming up with a win. If Rosenthal goes down, okay, the biggest issue right now, I guess, if you're Norway, is Grandmaster Lee seems to be up against it against Jacobian. He's down half the time, and he's worse in this Benoni. So Lee is struggling, and if Jacobian gets this win, that really puts St. Louis behind the 8 ball here. What's going on here? Is Feingold and Nielsen anything but a bunch of pieces getting traded? I don't know yet.
Yeah, it looks like. I'm still shocked how things changed both on board 1 and on board 4.
Yeah.
So those 2 games are looking great for the Gnomes.
Can
But
Nielsen play E5 here?
which one?
Nielsen against Feingold. If he plays E5, this bishop is becoming a little overloaded.
Mm-hmm.
Crazy idea. Just throwing it out there. It probably doesn't work. If knight takes here on C6, I wondered if I could take it with the pawn on F6. I guess it doesn't work because you have knight F5 in the end.
Yeah, I'm not getting mated, hopefully.
You're not getting mated, but I can take with the rook or the knight. And in some of these positions, I may be able to push your bishop back to H6, where it's just really, really passive after white gets F4. This is
It could be, and we thought that this position was pretty equal and drawish, but Nielsen managed to, and he's going for it. E5.
I feel like they're psychically picking up my vibrations here. I don't know. I mean, E5 feels. I like white's chances. This knight on A4 is starting to feel a little empty, like he's regretting this little journey he took on A4 because he's not very helpful. Now, okay, we've seen better positions blown by Norway, but this is a position that really has the Grandmaster on the defensive. Black is in trouble here. I think he should just take with the knight. One of the main reasons, everybody, is after bishop G5, F4. Okay, if bishop G5, F4, and the bishop moves to H6, there's never a chance to play rook C8 because of knight E7 check. Maybe he has rook to C8 before moving the bishop in that exact moment.
Could be.
Actually, no, but then queen to C2 is a double attack because the bishop's under fire.
Ouch, yeah, and
I'm threatening knight E7 check, winning the rook.
Yeah, this is bad. This is looking very bad for Ben.
Okay, so he had to play bishop to D8. So he's retreated his pieces. His knight on A4 is not happy, but it's up to Nielsen to find the accurate approach. Let's go back and see what's going on between the 2 men of the hour, Grandmasters Wesley So and Magnus Carlsen.
Yeah. Mike has just told me that Magnus is going to use his king to protect the C7 pawn. And that is happening.
Magnus.
That is happening.
Classic Magnus, right? Using his king to defend the pawn. LOL, right? Just kidding. But seriously.
E5, simple chess.
He's moving his king back to D8. He's going to guard C7. And the issue here, everybody, is that So's queen is sort of tied down, right? If she ever moved and took, there would have been this rook E1 check and then mate. So now So really has to find the ability to keep everything guarded, and it looks like white's pieces are just getting overloaded. F2 has to be guarded, D5. Aha, that's a resourceful move. Look at that shot.
Exactly, king H2 with queen H1. Oof. Yeah, that's why Wesley So is so great, that even if his position is inferior, he finds these kind of resources.
Well, I think if you're Carlsen now, you're evaluating whether you can trade queens and then get the more active king in the rook ending and win. But he decides no. He decides he needs to keep the ladies on the board, keeps pressure on D5. I think his king may find a new home for safety on the queen side, and maybe even walk itself up to C5, I dare say. Maybe?
Oh, that would be incredible if the king decides the game with king C5 and then you can take the pawn.
If the queen is just stuck here, look, she can't go to F3.
Actually?
She can't go to E4. Is that really the
Oh,
worst idea in the world? Okay, no, he didn't do it. He played rook e1. And then after queen g2, maybe he should have gone for my idea. Should have brought the
yeah,
king
I
around.
like your idea. Maybe we got mated after all, but I like the idea.
Oh,
Oh,
Wesley
we
So
got it!
blundered! The first time Wesley So blunders in the history of the Pro
Oh,
Chess
Magnus Carlsen
League. Oh
wins.
my gosh. That was it. That could be the blunder heard round the world if the Gnomes find a way to make a comeback. Now, in all
Yeah,
fairness, Wesley was really under the gun here. This is a hard position to
exactly. Magnus was
continue.
playing extremely well,
Yeah,
outplaying Wesley.
you can't continue to find only moves one
Mm-hmm.
after the other, right? And eventually
Yep.
he makes the mistake, desperate for a queen trade that would free his king. He blunders away the queen, everybody. This is a deflection. The point is the king has to capture, and the game is over. Wesley So resigns on the spot. OMG, as they say in social media. Um,
So what about the other boards? Because
okay, so
now,
Carlsen does his job. He beats the hottest player on the planet.
yeah.
What will happen in the other games? Mihalov got castled. Wowzers. Now he has to guard the H-pawn. E4 looks tasty, because if E4 queen takes, you have bishop to G5 Chekaruski,
Oh,
right?
uh-huh.
And that wins the queen. So E4 is an indirect defense of the H-pawn, and it opens the bishop. I kind of like E4 if I'm Mihalov here, but Norway has a chance. It's not over. The scoreboard shows you like you see it, everybody, right above our heads. With that huge victory by Magnus Carlsen, they have put themselves with 3 games still in play. They need 2 more victories at least here to fight back. I think the game that's really going to be tough for them is this one here. Jacobian seems to be bringing down the hammer against Grandmaster Lee with yet another exchange sacrifice.
Wow, this is really his trademark now.
Yeah,
Exchange
no,
sacrifice once again, and the strong passed pawn.
honestly, this just looks over.
Yeah.
This just looks over. That means it may come down to Mihalov having to beat Rosenthal.
But it doesn't
And
matter anymore if Jacobian wins.
if
It's
Jacobian, you're right.
and
That's
he
it.
has won. It's over.
It's over. Wait a second. Yeah, with that win,
8.5.
they've won. It's over.
Yeah.
The St. Louis champions are the 2017 Pro Chess League champions. The St. Louis Bishops, excuse me. Whoa,
Yeah.
well, that was a little anticlimactic there because I wasn't expecting the resignation there. But that was the honestly, it was just the unfortunate baloney. I always say, don't play the baloney. Jacobian shows why this is tough, and Jacobian proves hero, winning 2 great games in the Benoni. Now, there's still some interesting chess here, and unfortunately for the Gnomes, it looks like Mihalov may be doing okay here against Rosenthal, but it's not going to matter. And
Yeah.
Nielsen still has some pressure against Feingold, but also doesn't matter because we officially have champions. Wow.
Oh, this is, of course, congratulations to the St. Louis Archbishops. This was just sort of unexpected that the match is already over with 2 games going on. Magnus Carlsen has just won. He has beaten the number 2 in the world, Wesley So. So the Norwegians should be happy for that, of course, but their team is losing, and
And
has
I
already
knowing
lost
knowing
officially.
Magnus and knowing how competitive he is and how bad he wants to win, I don't think he's
Yeah,
happy with that. I mean, I'm sure
yeah,
he's happy
it's
that
pretty horrible.
I mean, Magnus did his job today. He went 4-0. He
Hmm.
took out everybody, including the previously really untouchable Wesley So. So you can't fault the world champion, the strongest player on the planet. He showed up and did what he was supposed to do. Unfortunately, Norway was not fielding their strongest lineup today, and next year maybe they'll
Yep.
come for revenge and have a little bit more to say in the finals in the Pro Chess League. But we have to congratulate St. Louis because they took it as seriously as they needed to. They fielded all
Yeah,
their best players, and they were the more consistent team, and that's why they won today. Already with eight and a
exactly.
half, 8.5 points, they have secured the match. It is best of 16, everybody. So 8.5 is really all you need minimum. And wow, 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 wow.
So The other two games, of course, we should still check what's happening. I see that Captain Casanova, aka Mikhailov, has just declined the draw versus Rosenthal.
Yeah,
Maybe he still doesn't
Rosenthal.
know that they lost already the match, or he's simply playing because his position is better.
Yeah, I mean, either way, I think at this point, chess is still chess, right? We play
Yep.
for the result, we play to win as a team, but I
Mm.
think they might as well play it out. And I think from our perspective, we're going to be looking to get Wesley So on the show now if we can, because he, despite going down to the world champion in today's match, the truth is Wesley was as committed as any super GM has ever been to their team, along with Magnus Carlsen, and he helped the Bishops get the
Yep.
victory overall in the season. And we're going to see if we can get one of the victors from the St. Louis Bishops on the show. The biggest game as to why the Bishops clinched really is this Jacobian victory, and because we didn't get to look at it so much, let's back up a few moves and see where the second brilliant Jacobian exchange sacrifice occurred. This is actually an instructive moment in the Benoni in general. It's basic for some of you more advanced players, but usually it's said in the Benoni, if white can get e5 tactically, and it works, right? And it's not just a big simplification of the pieces. It's kind of like if black can get d5 in the Sicilian. Sometimes you have these universal truths about a given pawn structure, right? So the instructive thing is that usually in the Benoni, if white is getting e5 and it's not just a simplification, it's a sign of bad things to come for black. And there's a number of reasons for that. One, it always creates this instantly strong pass d-pawn. Two, when you have more space in a position, typically that means your pieces had slightly better squares because you had more options available, right? We're just reading between the logical lines. So if the position starts to become tactical, your more powerful pieces that had those better squares because of your space, usually that works out for you. So Jacobian knows that. He plays e5, and we, Anna, you and I saw this position. We predicted that this was headed the wrong direction for Grandmaster Lee.
Exactly.
And, the position opens up, everything I just talked about as to why Jacobian is just much better here. And it's just a good universal instructive truth for all of you. If white gets e5 and it works, probably the Benoni is headed the wrong way. Really, the fun thing, though, is right here. Is at first, after he stops knight c4, bishop g5, he sees the opportunity for the exchange sack, sacrifices the rook, not because he even intends on winning the exchange back, but because the dark squares are such a problem and this d6 pawn is such a menace. What would Simon Williams say? What would he call the d pawn? Doug the d. He has a name for every pawn.
Yeah.
What is his d
Isn't
pawn name?
that Derek? I
Derek
think.
the d pawn.
Yeah,
Simon, if you're
I
going to
think so.
continue to give all these pawns names, maybe you could publish it somewhere on like a Wikipedia page or something. That might help
So we
everybody.
could look it up. But
Right.
I see
Eddie,
was announcing in the chat that the word on the street is that Wesley So will be on air in about 10 minutes.
great.
So don't go
Fantastic.
anywhere. Wesley is joining us soon.
The world not the world champion took down Wesley So and went 4-0 today, but Magnus Carlsen wanted more than that. I think he enjoyed this team sport of chess more than he ever thought he would. We've loved having his competition, and he's been really active in his support of the Gnomes, and I think he wanted more. He wanted to win the whole thing, but the best player in the world will have to take that energy and revenge in next year's season. I bet next year he doesn't wait until week 3 or 4 to start playing regularly for the Gnomes. And
Certainly not. I see him as the manager of the team,
the
doing the
manager of the
lineups for
team,
every week.
he's gonna give Aryan Tari and some of these other guys who didn't schedule the finals a piece of his mind because Magnus wants to win. So
Exactly. Their excuse was the Swedish league. Of course, it's not an excuse. They should have been here for the Pro Chess League, but it's true that both Hammer and Argentari had to play today in the Swedish league, so that's why they couldn't be here for the Norway Gnomes.
well, it's unfortunate. Magnus did his job, though. We will have Wesley So, who did more than his job throughout this whole year, leading the St. Louis Archbishops to the Pro Chess League Championship. The first ever Pro Chess League champions. That counts for history, right?
Yep.
You
Certainly.
just the St. Louis Archbishops just became a trivia question, as my boy Mike Klein would say. Who is in 20 years from now, they'll quiz kids and say, who won the first ever Pro Chess League championship? and only us old people will know the answer, Anna. We'll be old, and actually, I'm already old.
Oh, I don't even
Um,
mention it. I see those wrinkles appearing all over. Yeah, but there are still two games going on, so maybe we should talk about some of those moves.
Absolutely. Which one do we want to look at? I'm organizing, making sure I'm connected with Wesley here on Skype.
Sure, sure. It's an endgame, bishop versus knight in Mikhailov versus Rosenthal, um, where there has been a few more draw offers. Now Rosenthal declined the draw. Of course, he's a pawn up. And in the other game, I don't know which one you have on the screen. You have Ben's
Right
position.
now, I have Nielsen's game against Ben, and Nielsen is doing his job as well. He's making up
Mhm.
for an advantage
Yeah,
he blew against Rosenthal last round. I don't know if he wins this game yet, but he's definitely outplaying Ben Feingold in the current setup. So
yeah. If it wasn't for the blunder in the previous round, then this would have been a completely different story.
it's so true, right? I mean, if Mihailov takes care of Ben Feingold in the
Yeah,
previous round,
exactly.
um, we're looking at a match where these games have us on the edge of our seat,
Hmm.
but that's what happens, right? It's
Yeah,
one blunder can turn everything around, and it's rapid chess for a reason because we like the fun, and but St. Louis did what they needed to do. Ben stayed on his toes. He got his opportunity to win that game when he was really under the gun, and now he will. It looks like he's going to lose this one, but he will still be a member of the winning team.
yeah.
As I am attempting to connect with Wesley here.
Yes, and Ben said already yesterday that he only wins a game when it's really needed for the team. So now this one doesn't matter.
Yep.
So is Wesley joining us?
Just a fun stat, but yes, he is joining us, and I'm trying to bring him on. Joachim wins, so it does make it a lot closer. In the final score of things, it was 9-7,
Hmm.
and for those who actually watched the whole thing and were with us the whole time, they know that this match was not quite the tiebreaker, crazy affairs we had in the semifinals, but very exciting, down to the wire. Really,
Yeah.
some blown blunders by Norway is what they can blame this match on. The world champion did his job. We are waiting to be joined by Wesley So. Mike Klein just told me that the St. Louis Bishops can at the very least claim to have more titles than the St. Louis Blues hockey team. And they've played 50 years, so good job for the St. Louis Archbishops. I think Rex Singfield would like to know that. He should contact the owners there at the Blues and remind them that he has one more ring than they do. So, no, but seriously, congratulations to the Archbishops. They are the 2017 Pro Chess League champions. We'll just let a big logo of the Bishops be on the screen right now because I can't think of anything else more cool to do. But the games are over. As you see, Norway wins St. Louis wins the championship by a score of 9-7. A ton of fun. And let's hear from the man of the season. Is he the MVP? Right? Who knows? I
I
think
think
that
he is the MVP, but Greg should let us know who is going to win the most valuable player prize.
yeah, I think there's some stats to calculate. From what I believe, the MVP is a combination of something we have officially stated based on like minimum scores and stuff, and I don't know if there's a committee that decides beyond that if it's a tie or something. But I'm not involved. I don't know exactly the stats there, but it seems like with the season he had. The only thing that he could have done better was not lose to Magnus Carlsen here, but you know what? Hey, that happens to the best of us. Even I've lost to
Yeah.
Magnus, so, hey, come on, right? All right, Wesley, waiting for you, buddy. As soon as Wesley gets here, we will bring him on the show. Let's pull up his game with Magnus so that we're ready to go over it and
Are
ask him
you
where he's.
joking?
What?
You will tell him to go through his last game.
Well, I think we have to. I think we have to ask him about this moment with E4 because I honestly feel that perhaps it was slightly
Yeah, it's true.
slightly
For sure, he knows where he
unnecessary.
went wrong.
Yeah, and I'll get his opinion. Maybe E4 was a little bit more aggressive than he needed to be. It felt like after the position started to open up on the F file was when Magnus, starting with this position with knight e7,
Yep.
it felt like black was in the driver's seat because of all the weaknesses we were highlighting here, right? So maybe he agrees or maybe he doesn't, and we will get his opinion, as he is a much stronger player than us. So that'll be interesting. We'll ask him whether he thinks he's the MVP. Why not put these guys on the spot and let them tell us whether they think they're the best player?
Do you think that you've played the best chess in the Pro
Do you think
Chess
you're the
League?
best player? And ask him when he, if he thinks he could beat Magnus Carlsen in a match.
Yeah,
Let's just ask him. Let's
certainly
put him on
that's
the
a huge
spot.
question nowadays.
All right. Well, he is with us, and I am going to go ahead and add him to our call right now. Hoping for some video here. Moving the video chat up and hoping to have Wesley join us via video, which now he has.
Thank you.
And hey, Wesley. Anna, we've lost your video. Are you still there?
Oh. I'm always muted. There. Hello?
We seem to have lost Anna's video, but Wesley, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you loud and clear, Danny.
Thank you for joining us. Wesley, congratulations on leading the St. Louis Archbishops to the 2017 Pro Chess League Championship. How much does this matter to you? How awesome is this for you to lead the team to their first ever Pro Chess League title?
Well, it matters a lot. Now we're world champions, I have a great team. We're not the only players, but I'd like to congratulate my great teammates, Jacobian, Ben Feingold, and Nicolas Rosenthal. So this is a huge win for us, most especially since we're representing the St. Louis Chess Club, which is a really great place to be. And starting last year, we built a training base here in St. Louis, so I come here often to work and practice with other GMs. So we're really proud to do it for them, and also the first Pro Chess League. It's been very hard to get here all the way to the finals, and we needed a lot of things to make it through this far. And
right.
And now we finally did it. So next year we're gonna be ready to defend our title.
It sounds like you have a lot of affinity for the city that you're playing from and representing, St. Louis, and just obviously the relationships you've built there with the club and with both Rex and Jeannie Sinkfield. And how do you feel it is to just be able to bring the first ever championship to the city and the fans there?
Well, I'm very proud and happy. I'm happy.
Hey! Congratulations, Wesley. Sorry, I was kicked out by Skype and I missed the whole conversation.
Okay.
That's okay. I was just asking Wesley how he feels about the championship that they brought to St. Louis, and we'll let him continue.
Okay. Well,
Go
as I said, I'm very happy and proud. I'm very happy to do it for the players here in St. Louis. And not only me. As I said, we have a great team. And this year will be the 10th U.S. Chess Championship that is held here in St. Louis, and it's going to start very soon. So this is a great start for it. And by the way, this team that played today is basically the same team that won 3 years ago in the U.S. Chess League. But this is bigger. Now we're world champions, and other than my loss on the last game, this would be a very memorable for me.
Well, before we talk about that game, I think we wanted to give the fans some insight into what you thought about that game with Magnus. But speaking on the whole season, you had Anna quoted stats in our pregame show that you came in with a 33.5 out of 37 points performance.
Amazing performance.
More committed than any of the super GMs playing for their teams. And do you feel you were the MVP? Obviously, the MVP comes with a cash prize and whatever the first ever MVP. But do you feel like you were the most committed super GM and deserving of the MVP this year?
Well, huh?
It, I'm not asking you to be cocky. I'm just asking you to be confident and say how you feel you played this year.
Well, it's hard to say. It's not for me to decide. You know, winning the MVP is great, but it's more important for me to win for the team as a whole. And first of all, I'm not sure what the basis of the MVP is.
It's
Like,
pretty much just whoever plays the most awesome, and you played pretty awesome. So,
and who
so
decides? Uh,
I think probably. I mean, if you're curious about the stats, probably you and guys like Georg Meyer had the best chances heading in. You know, Georg was also very consistent, played a lot. But if I had to give you any spoilers, I would say that you're probably going to be the MVP. So congratulations.
thank you. Yeah, Georg played.
Congratulations, Wesley. Also, Ben is here in the chat saying that it's an easy MVP for Wesley.
It's an easy MVP. Yeah, Ben is your biggest fan, which is good because
He always says easy.
yeah, everything's easy. So. Not easy is playing Magnus Carlsen, and I know we don't want to talk about one of the only losses you had all year, but we might as well. It was a pivotal game in this match, and obviously we know Magnus won the game, but wasn't enough to help his team. Can you give us any insight now that since we have world number 2 here? Where did you feel this game went wrong for you? We were analyzing perhaps. The approach taken starting on move 17 with e4 and then followed with d5 right after was maybe a little bit unnecessarily aggressive, or do you feel like that was fine and things went awry later?
Yeah, I feel he outplayed me today. I mean, he played really well today. Congratulations. But I think, first of all, my 14th move, knight e5, might be an inaccuracy.
Okay.
Perhaps I should go to d2 because then I wasted time moving my knight back and forth. And then I felt that black was always slightly better because of he has a better pawn structure.
Okay.
And
did you play?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead. I was asking, did you play e4 because you were worried that if you didn't change the structure, black might get e5 and kind of slowly build up on the king side?
Yeah, that's what I felt. E5 might come and knight c6, but I think knight e4 is a normal move. I just have to play precisely later on, and then on on move 27, I missed my last chance to equalize.
Right, and specifically, which move do you feel you should have played instead of rook e3?
Queen e8 check and take on a4.
Oh, interesting. Okay, so if you take on a4. You end up trading the a4 pawn for the d5 pawn, and you have pretty good drawing chances there.
Yeah, and I don't have much weaknesses.
Okay.
But so rook e3 can be considered like a mini blunder.
Got it.
After which black is just much better. And even in the end, I mean, I blundered my queen, but it was already a bad position.
Right. Very difficult to defend that at that point. Okay. Well,
fortunately, my teammates played very well in the last game, and it's a team event. So.
Right. Well, your team was in a great position before that anyway. Obviously, you had gone 3-0 to help them get there, and certainly one loss doesn't define the season. But I know that you and Magnus have a building rivalry. I don't think that you guys have played since Tata Steel, right?
No, we haven't.
And how do you feel you match up against the world champion these days? You've obviously had a phenomenal year. I don't need to remind you, but you haven't lost a game over the board in a really long time. It's been like 8 months since. So how do you feel you stack up against the world champion these days?
Well, I don't look that far ahead. I just want to play one game at a time. Right now, I'm focused for the U.S. Championship, and this is going to be a very crucial event because it's the biggest, obviously the biggest national event in American chess. So I'm very focused on this, and I just hope to keep improving. I mean, it's unfortunate I lost today, but I think that's how chess players learn is if they study their losses and learn concretely from it. Obviously, as the game showed today, I still have a lot of areas to able to improve upon. And when I play Magnus on in Norway, hopefully I'll be a better player by then.
Well, if you continue to have this approach and attitude, I'm sure you will be. I mean, you're about as humble as any chess player, and certainly with the talent you bring to the table, Wesley, the sky seems to be the limit. So it's a pleasure talking to you, and congratulations to your team.
Yeah, and thank you, Danny. I think it has been a pretty successful first season for the Pro Chess League so far, and lots of people enjoy it. I mean, the server crashed earlier.
Oh, don't remind me. That's my head. That's like me. That's like me reminding you of Magnus's loss, as you remind me that the server crashed. So no, but you're right. It wasn't a great start, but it was a finish that I think a lot of people predicted. I did pick your team to go all the way, FYI, just so you know. I thought that you
I
guys.
also picked your team, Wesley. I also picked St. Louis. So we are happy with our predictions. Danny and I tried to predict the whole playoffs, and we were doing pretty badly, but we managed to guess the winner, and that's your team.
It's very typical of a sports commentator on ESPN to only remember the times where they predicted something correctly. So I was wrong most of the time, but right about you. What were you going to say, buddy?
Yeah, you have great insight, both of you. I mean, great insight, Danny. I watched your video, and you almost got it everything correct except for the Marseille migraines.
Yeah, well, I didn't know that Magnus was going to be so committed. I think he's upset. I think he'll be back for revenge next year. I look forward to this. A new stage for you guys to have a rivalry on, and I'm sure that he'll be back for the Gnomes and you'll be back for the Bishops. I don't have any other questions. Just thank you for being the champion that you are and for joining us, and look forward to following you, and good luck at the U.S. Championship.
Thank you.
Good luck there, and also good luck at the Speed Chess Championship, where you will face Magnus once again.
At the Speed Chess? Oh, yeah, well, I have to go through Anish first.
Yeah, he's got Giri first.
Oh, I took that for granted.
His match against Anish Giri is May 25th, everybody, for you big Wesley So fans out there, and just fans of the next big event that Chess.com will roll out. May 25th is Anish Giri versus Wesley So. Well, since Anna brought it up, let me ask you, how do you think you'll fare there? I mean, obviously a totally different format than the Pro Chess League. You instantly face off against one of the other top players in the world. And it's blitz, which is tough, right? How do you think you'll match up against Anish in that match?
Yeah, it's blitz, and we also play Chess 960, if I remember.
That's right.
Well, we'll see. I'm very excited to play it. I think the match will be exciting, especially since now Anish has been winning more games than before. So I think the match. I mean,
sorry, that was funny.
but yeah, I think it will be really exciting. Of course, it's gonna be a very tough match. Anish Giri is a top 10, previously top 5 best chess player in the world. I have to play fast.
Right. Have to play fast, right? Well, we look forward to it. It'll be one of the probably our first marquee matchup. Nakamura takes on one of our qualifiers May 3rd, but that matchup between you and Giri, everyone can circle on their calendars. It'll be right after, I think you both return from the Moscow candidates event, right? And then
Moscow. No, he's returning from the Grand Prix series, but I'm not.
Oh, you're not playing there, right? Okay, right. Okay. Well, good luck at the U.S. Championship. Good luck in the Speed Chess Championship. Perhaps Anna and I will be talking to you then after another victory. And thank you so much for joining us today, Wesley.
Thank you, Danny.
Congratulations once again to you, Wesley, and to the St. Louis Archbishops. I see in the chat that Ben is hoping to join us now in the stream.
Yeah.
Ben always wants to get on TV with me. He ran away for a while, but now he wants to be back.
I think he lost his last game intentionally to make it close.
Yeah,
exactly.
That's the kind of thing Ben would say for sure.
Yeah,
team spirit.
But yeah, so good job, St. Louis Archbishop, and we're planning to defend our title next year.
Absolutely. Congratulations to you, the team, the whole city, Wesley, and good luck at the U.S. Championship. We'll talk to you soon.
Okay, bye.
Good
Thanks,
luck,
Danny.
and see you, Wesley.
Bye-bye.
Well, there you have it. The top the top player known as Wesley So. Just awesome. He's so humble.
Yeah.
Um,
I'm always amazed how humble he can be for being so
yeah,
good. I would be
he's
like, I've just won the Pro Chess League.
yeah, he's amazing, and he's obviously super strong to go with it.
Yeah.
He's I'm trying to set up a little bit of our setup here. We kind of lost your video because of the.
Yeah, I have a huge head.
That's okay. I'm trying to re set up our system here. That's when you're not set up for multiple calls and then you go to multiple calls. You know what? This is why I'm a one-man band. I should be, I'm a one-man band. I'm playing a million different instruments here at once. But there you go. So now we have Anna
You're
Rudolph
doing
back,
great, Danny. I don't know where
and
I am and where's my big head, but you're doing great.
you're doing great. And I think if Ben wants to join us, sure, why not? We're here, right?
Yeah, let's call Ben.
Absolutely. If Ben wants to join us, let's bring him on. Ben, are you on Skype? I assume you are somewhere here. The legendary Ben Feingold. We got a few minutes here before we lose all the fans, but everybody wants
Ben
to
is
see you.
saying in the chat, Skype me. And also you guys in the chat, prepare your questions to Ben. I'm sure you have many.
I just resent a contact request to Ben that hopefully he accepts, and then we can have a conversation with Ben on the show. Yeah, give us any questions you want for Ben. Try to keep them PG, at least PG-13, and we'll see how Ben feels. Obviously, he's as excited as anybody. Ben loves the Pro Chess League, loves playing online for the St. Louis team. So I don't buy that he lost that last game on purpose, but we'll give him a pass. Ben, I've sent you. We're connected on Skype. I think you just gotta. If not, we'll pretend you're here in spirit. I could have a conversation with you and try to anticipate your answers. So anyway, Anna, great stuff. It was awesome to have Wesley on the show. Really, just incredible. That was so close, and I think Norway had their chances in that middle round, but St. Louis proved to be the favorite in the end because of their consistency.
Yeah, and they have played the same team basically every week, so that shows that they were really determined, and I think that's what makes a champion. So, of course, the Norwegians are a great team, great players, but they couldn't bring always the same lineup, while the St. Louis Archbishops, they have always brought their best players. Ben is saying that he hasn't received any contact request.
I'm trying to call him then. Hey, Anna. Trying to get Ben on, but I think we might just have to call it a day here if we can't quite get the
He's
technical
not here.
stuff.
Yeah. I have disappeared, or am I back?
Let me. Yep, you're back.
Oh, cool. Oh, that's a pity. I really wanted to have Ben on the show. He's saying, "Call me, dude."
I'm trying to call him, but you got to tell him to add me. Ben, add me.
Add Danny.
All right. Well, don't think it's going to quite work out.
In the meantime, let me announce, if I have read correctly, then Greg has told me that I finished 36th in the prediction game. I don't know how. 36 out of 2,600. Jeez.
That's actually pretty awesome. I'm sure that's better than I did.
I think so. I'm sorry about that, Danny.
No, you don't have to tell me. Don't tell me how I did. I know. I know. Well,
your methods are still way cooler than my ones.
My methods, I think, worked out in the end. You know, maybe some didn't quite deliver the results I wanted, but in all seriousness, I think we're going to bring the show to a close, Ben. I don't know that we're going to be able to get out the technical stuff here. We appreciate everybody for being here. Honestly, this has been one of the most thrilling and fun experiences we've ever had on Chess.com, and I think for the global chess world, this hopefully is a sign of things to come. I think next year it'll be even more fun, even more entertaining, and probably even more of the world's top grandmasters competing, if that's even possible. We had world's numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I mean, we had pretty much all of them, but maybe playing even more. And congratulations once again to the St. Louis Archbishops. Congratulations to the Gnomes on a phenomenal season. Simply phenomenal season, right there in the end. And congratulations and thank you to the fans for supporting this, and we look forward to seeing you next year.
Yeah, and thanks to Greg Shahadi, thanks to the whole team of Chess.com, thanks to you, Danny, for bringing us all together to bring all these streams, the commentary shows. The whole championship weekend was epic. Yesterday's tie breaks and 8 hours of chess, 11 weeks of Pro Chess League, and then the championship weekend. This has been 3 months so far, and I don't know what I'm going to do next week with the Pro Chess League.
Well, we have the qualifiers starting, and so we will remind everybody that's what you're doing next week. Not exactly a week, but you know, we got a lot to look forward to at the Speed Chess Championship. Who will qualify? Who will be this person with no face to play one of the top 4 Blitz and Rapid players in the world? Make sure you tune in, check the calendar. That's going to be our real focus for probably the remainder of the year. And we get all these big players back again with some of these huge matches. Totally different format than what we've seen here, but just epic throwdowns between studs in these fast time controls. So, Anna, thank you for being here. Thanks for flying alongside. Thanks for having me, and we wish everybody the best, and we'll talk to you later.